The worst student in the entire Demon Slayer's Academy stands in front of the sync machine, a device built to measure how well a human body can connect with a demon core, the very source of power behind their armor. The rule is simple: the higher the synchronization rate, the more demon power you can command. Just moments ago, the top cadet Sidhu scored 39%, instantly earning the title of prodigy. No one expects anything from Aang, not even a little. But the second the test begins, the numbers spike fast. 20%, 40, climbing higher and higher until it slams into 80. The instructors freeze, convinced the machine has malfunctioned, but it hasn't. The result is real, and the truth, no one here knows it yet. Because this so-called failure used to be humanity's strongest warrior. 60 years ago, Aang led the charge against the demonic forces that nearly erased mankind. He stood face to face with the Crimson Demon King, and in that final battle, he died with nothing left to give. Or at least he was supposed to. Instead, his consciousness returns, trapped inside a weak, unfamiliar body decades into the future. Disoriented, fading in and out, he wakes up in what looks like a military boot camp. Everything feels wrong. The body isn't his. The strength isn't there. Even his face is different. Gone is the legendary physique, replaced with something painfully average. The realization hits hard and he snaps, questioning who he is and where he's been thrown. The camp is located in the Helios region, where new cadets are being trained. The commander steps forward, delivering a harsh speech about sacrifice, about the soldiers who died in the war, about what it truly means to carry that title. The recruits respond with conviction, all except Aang. Under his breath, he mutters that something about this information feels off. Unfortunately, the commander hears him. The atmosphere tightens instantly. The commander approaches, questioning his understanding, demanding his name. Aang hesitates. He can't exactly declare himself as the legendary hero, but ironically the body he's in shares the same name. Aang, instead of respect, that answer only fuels the commander's anger. To him, it's nothing short of an insult to a sacred name. He calls him a worthless fool, someone who hasn't even begun to grasp the basics of a soldier's discipline, and slams his face straight into the ground. And just like that, reality sets in. The blow is weak, insignificant, yet his body can't even react properly. The former strongest warrior now stuck in a body that can't even handle a simple hit. The disappointment is crushing. As the commander walks away, he makes one thing clear: he'll be watching him closely. The cadets are then ordered to move to the evaluation field for physical testing. A soldier helps Aang back up, introducing himself as Lancino, casually pointing out that his name is something to be proud of. Before the moment can settle, a white-haired girl cuts in, mocking him for daring to share a name with a legend. That girl is Sidhu Leyu. Her tone is cold, dismissive, and sharp enough to sting. She calls him childish and walks off without a second glance, clearly irritated by his existence. Aang, already frustrated, doesn't hold back, complaining about her attitude. Lancino, however, is stunned he doesn't recognize her. She's the most anticipated cadet of their batch, known as the Cold-Blooded Demon, and a member of the prestigious Sidhu noble family. The name Sidhu lingers in Aang's mind, oddly familiar, but just out of reach. As Lancino helps him up, a random girl snaps a picture from behind, calling the moment a beautiful display of bromance. Both turn, confused, only for her to casually brush it off and introduce herself as Suju Yuhoi. To her, the interaction was worth capturing. To Aang, she's clearly not the brightest. Soon, the physical tests begin. Despite the weak body, Aang's confidence doesn't waver. In his mind, he's still the strongest warrior to ever exist. All he needs to do is prove it. The endurance test starts and he charges forward, aiming for first place, maybe even a record. He does break a record, just not the one he wanted. He finishes dead last, setting the record for the slowest time. The next test, explosive arm strength, ends just as badly. He comes last again and even manages to sprain his wrist. Then comes leg strength, and once more he ranks at the bottom. 3 tests, 3 failures. The laughter around him grows louder. Sidhu Leyu doesn't hold back, openly mocking him as the worst performer in Academy history. Lancino tries to lift his spirits, while Suju quietly laments that this might be the last time she gets to photograph them together. Elsewhere, the officials discuss his results. Giat suggests immediate elimination, seeing no value in continuing, but the captain disagrees. No matter how slim the chances, Aang still has the right to attempt the second round, and that second round changes everything. Inside the testing facility, cadets are evaluated based on synchronization with demon cores. This is Aang's domain. In the past, his sync rate averaged over 96%. Even now, he's certain this is where he proves himself. He examines the modern gear, lighter, more advanced, almost unrecognizable compared to his time. His confidence returns. Sidhu Leyu scores 39% again, becoming the center of attention. Lancino achieves 24%, surprising everyone, while Suju reaches 30%. The evaluators note multiple promising talents emerging from this batch. Then it's Aang's turn. The crowd mocks him, expecting another failure. But Aang remains calm. He chooses the red core, designed to boost physical strength, fully aware of how these cores function. For him, its simple synchronization is a battle of willpower. The test begins. Almost instantly, the entire room feels the reaction. Even Sidu Leu turns, sensing something abnormal. Aang pushes forward, drawing out power like a veteran warrior reclaiming his throne. 40%. The room falls silent. 60. Disbelief spreads. 80. Now panic sets in. Some think it's cheating. Others suspect the equipment. But Aang knows the truth. This is just a fraction of what he once was. He tries to push further, aiming for his old peak. Then suddenly everything collapses. His strength vanishes. His body gives out. He can't continue. The system malfunctions and the final result drops to a mere 10%. The officials claim the core broke mid-test, likely faulty, but the commander isn't convinced. Something about this doesn't add up. Still, 10% is enough to pass. To everyone else, it confirms their belief. There's no way someone this weak could ever reach such heights. But for Aang, the situation is far more unsettling. He felt it clearly. Something drained his power completely, something unnatural. Lancino rushes to help him out while Suju eagerly captures the moment. Sidu Leu watches from a distance, her expression tightening. For the first time, someone else is threatening her spotlight. Later, as Aang reflects, the mystery gnaws at him. Even with a faulty core, that kind of collapse shouldn't happen. Something interfered, something he doesn't understand yet. Then Giat announces the final phase. A real battle. A hunt beyond the wall, deep within the fog where demons still roam. As the cadets gather before the massive gate, the tension rises. Some feel excitement, others fear. Aang steps forward, his body still weak, but his instincts sharper than ever. Because whatever is waiting on the other side isn't going to be a test. For Aang, this is the first time stepping beyond the wall, the first time seeing the outside world in this era, and it reminds him how humanity has been split into isolated communities for years. Beyond the wall, the land is swallowed by heavy fog, so the recruits are warned not to waste a single second, move quietly, and check their gear properly before speaking, because one careless mistake could get them killed. That makes Aang question the new core he received. He still doesn't think the core itself was the issue, but during the last test, his strength vanished all at once, almost like something inside his body rejected the power. He wonders if this could be some strange side effect of crossing through time. As they move deeper, Aang suddenly senses demons nearby. A shockwave-like instinct spreads out from him, reaching toward a nearby cave where a demon is sitting in silence. The moment the demon feels a stronger presence, it flinches, startled by what it just sensed. Aang realizes these must be the demons he detected, but for some reason, something inside his body begins resonating with them. Before he can think any deeper, Leu pushes him forward and tells him to stop holding everyone up. Aang apologizes and Lan quickly comes over, asking if something is wrong. Aang is about to explain, but before he can finish, the three of them are ordered to form a team. Since the others are already moving, they're told to catch up with the group ahead. Suju wonders if ending up on the same team was part of Aang's plan, but let's be real, our boy had zero idea this was coming. Meanwhile, Leu had secretly been worried earlier that no one would team up with her. Even she seems aware her attitude isn't exactly beginner-friendly. Before they head further in, Suju takes a photo of the four of them, treating it like proof that their team has officially been formed. The dispelling steel is a black structure made from durable minerals, and one of those minerals has the power to clear the fog within a limited range. The examiner explains that this test will be done in teams of 4, and everyone already knows it as the Fog Hunt. Each member receives a combat knife, along with a small fog-clearing device made from the same material as the steel. Their mission is simple, but the danger is very real. The Fog Hunt is the final trial every new recruit must face in this fog-covered world. A warrior has to stay alert for threats hidden inside the mist. Being a warrior isn't just about raw strength, it means facing fear, stepping into the unknown, and surviving together as a team. Only by awakening their inner hunter and defeating the demons that appear can they earn the title of warrior. The first team finishes its test, and the second team prepares to enter. At the gate, Tada Yashio, the leader of the 3rd Squadron, watches the contestants closely. Beside her stands her fellow senior Joel, while Commander Giating is also present. Tada notices several promising recruits, but her attention keeps drifting toward Leu. She asks what the others think about the newcomers. Joel is also interested in Leu. Since she comes from a prestigious martial family and has received proper training, he believes she has the potential to become a strong warrior. Giating, on the other hand, keeps thinking about Aang. He knows for a fact there was nothing wrong with Aang's core earlier, which means that strange synchronization incident still doesn't make sense. Tada snaps him out of his thoughts by calling him Tang Tang, and of course, the commander immediately tells her not to use that embarrassing nickname. Joel notices that she may be the only person who can tease this hard-faced commander like that and survive. Tada then asks if they've confirmed the demon levels, stressing that only non-fin demons should be inside the exam area. Giating tells her not to worry, explaining that they have monitored the zone for days to make sure the test is safe, and there are no fin demons anywhere near Hylo's town. Joel adds that even if a finned demon somehow appears, they'll step in immediately and protect the future warriors. The next group finishes, and now it's time for the 10th group. Leu, who is teamed up with Aang, gets ready to begin. As Aang reaches for the small container, Leu suddenly snatches it from him and takes off, clearly eager to show what she can do. Aang wonders why anyone would be this desperate to impress people, while the rest of the team quickly follows after her. Leu jumps forward and places the container in position. Tada immediately notices how impressive Leu's recovery core is, pointing out that her dexterity is almost on the same level as the blue agility cores, proving just how strong her martial family training really is. Soon, demons begin attacking. Aang tells the team they should deal with the demons directly, and Lan wastes no time jumping into action, launching a powerful punch. Giat is impressed by Lan's strength, noting that he is already making excellent use of his core power. Aang draws his knife and tells everyone to focus on one demon each. The team agrees and charges into battle. Suju slashes at one demon again and again, finally bringing it down. Lan finishes another demon with a single heavy punch. Joel points out that Suju and that brute force guy are working surprisingly well together, with Suju showing sharp movement and making great use of the agility core. Giat reminds them, however, not to depend too much on any one teammate. Leu stabs into a demon and makes it burst apart. Now it's Aang's turn. He focuses on 3 vital points: the throat, the chest, and the abdomen. He targets those areas while calculating the limits of his current body, trying to figure out how much damage he can deal in the shortest time possible. Under exam conditions, this is the perfect chance to test what he can still do. He rushes forward and keeps attacking the demon. When the demon throws a punch, Aang dodges to the side and drives his knife under its shoulder. But even while moving correctly, he's irritated by how sluggish his reactions feel. The demon tries to kick him, and Aang dodges again, stabbing it once more. His movements are technically precise, but his body refuses to keep up with the skill in his head. He lands several strikes, but none of them have the power he wants. Watching this, his teammates start to think he might be playing around with his target. Meanwhile, Suju keeps taking pictures, trying to capture the whole thing. Leu says nothing, but she assumes Aang is showing off on purpose. Tada notices Aang's unusual fighting style and asks who he is. Joel is also impressed, saying Aang's movements look like someone with a lot of real combat experience. After fighting for a while, Aang realizes the truth: he can't use his old abilities and his current body is already reaching its limit. This is bad, really bad, so he decides to end the demon immediately. But just as he rushes in, something else appears and destroys the demon first. Suju notices strange roots suddenly emerging during the fight. Then, without warning, a one-finned demon appears. The moment real danger shows itself, Giat orders everyone to fall back and they retreat immediately. Tada and Joel also step forward to confront the one-finned demon. Tada tells the hunters not to panic and to stay near the commander, while Giat promises to protect them until they reach the town. But the one-finned demon senses something strange. Among the humans, one of them feels almost like a demon. Aang and his 3 teammates are trapped. Leu is confused by what the demon means, but she knows one thing for sure: the earlier demons were nothing compared to this monster. A single mistake against a one-finned demon could mean instant death. Aang understands it too. In his current body, he has no way to handle a one-finned demon. For the first time, terror creeps in, because fighting something like this as an ordinary warrior is completely different from fighting it as the legend he used to be. The demon overwhelms all 4 of them with ease, disables them, and drags them away. Tada and Joel chase after it, but the demon dives underground with the 4 recruits. Joel yells for everyone to follow. After a while, the trail suddenly disappears. Tada wonders how a one-finned demon could appear here so unexpectedly, especially when Giat had checked this area for days and had never missed anything before. Something like this has never happened until now. Giat arrives, demanding to know where the 4 recruits went and why they stopped tracking the demon. Joel tells him to calm down, explaining that the enemy vanished. Tada points out that the one-finned demon likely went deeper underground, and they shouldn't rush in blindly because no one has explored that area before. Remembering the loss of his brother, Giat slams his fist into the ground, blaming himself for putting those 4 kids in danger. Joel suggests returning to town first, guessing that the situation there may already be in chaos. He wants to send out search teams and confirm there are no more one-finned demons wandering nearby. Tada agrees that they shouldn't lose control over an unprecedented situation, especially when no one could have predicted it. She tells Giat to stay calm, even though she knows how hard that is for him. Giat stands up and says he'll continue searching for the 4 recruits alone, telling them not to worry. Joel tries to object, but Tada cuts him off and simply tells the commander to return before sunset. Giat agrees, then heads into the fog by himself. Tada knows there's no changing his mind. Joel remembers that years ago, demons took Giat's younger brother, and he has blamed himself ever since. Tada notes that if Giat's brother were still alive, he would be around the same age as the 4 captured recruits. Maybe seeing those kids taken by a demon reopened the wound he never healed from. Meanwhile, inside a cave, Aang and the others are tied up. Aang wakes up confused, unsure where they are, but he's relieved to see that everyone is still alive. Then the demon appears behind him, noticing that Aang is the first one to wake up. The demon can tell this boy is different from the others. It wonders why Aang has a demon-like aura, maybe even stronger than its own. Aang has no idea what the monster is talking about. Suddenly, Aang's body begins glowing red and he snaps the ropes holding him down. He charges at the demon, but the demon dodges with ease. Aang immediately thinks that in his past life, he would have taken this demon's head before it even had time to move. But right now, he has to focus on saving the others. He notices that the one-fin demon has a red core, boosting its speed and flexibility, allowing it to move and strike faster than normal. But that kind of body structure also leaves its joints without thick protection, turning them into both its biggest advantage and its biggest weakness. The demon raises its hand toward Aang and tells him resisting is pointless. It slams into him, and Aang instantly realizes that the only way to win is by targeting its joints. That is the demon's weak spot. He pushes himself forward, refusing to be treated like some powerless rookie. He shouts that he has killed countless one-fin demons before. In response, the demon lands a brutal kick, sending him crashing back and leaving him bleeding. And because this thing is a wooden-type demon, it can regenerate its own body, a disgusting ability that makes the monster far too proud of itself. Aang always believed only green-core demons could regenerate like that, so seeing a wooden-type monster heal itself throws him off completely. He starts wondering if demons have changed during the last 50 years. The demon realizes Aang is looking down on it, and it doesn't like that one bit. In the next instant, roots burst out and stab straight through Aang's body, dragging him closer. The demon grabs his head, studying him like some strange creature, still unable to understand what he really is. Aang can feel the roots tearing into his organs, making every breath feel impossible. He has only just returned to life, yet somehow he is already standing at death's door again. Worse than that, the other three are still here with him. That same old despair starts crawling back, the fear that he might not just die alone but drag everyone else down with him. Regret crushes him. Aang curses his own weakness, furious that after everything he survived, he is still too powerless to protect the people beside him. Seeing Aang barely holding on, the one-fin demon decides to devour him and use his power to evolve. But right before it can move in, another voice stirs inside Aang, cold and irritated. It questions whether this low-level demon seriously plans to eat him. The voice grumbles that if Aang dies here, its own plans will be ruined, and now it has no choice but to burn the last bit of its energy. Suddenly, the one-fin demon senses something terrifying rising from Aang's body. A demonic form begins to emerge and the one-fin demon panics, guessing it might be a 5-finned or even 6-finned demon. But the aura is far beyond that. Shockwaves tear upward into the sky, and then an 8-finned demon appears, instantly turning the one-finned demon into a shaking mess. The newcomer declares itself the strongest red-core demon, the king of all finned demons. The one-finned demon trembles, recognizing him as the crimson-finned king. Meanwhile, Giat continues searching through the fog, cutting down any demon that crosses his path. After some time, he stops and realizes he has already checked the surrounding area, but only found a few no-fin demons. The 4 candidates are nowhere nearby. Still, he refuses to stop. He swears he will find them before sunset, no matter what. Then he senses a massive burst of energy in the distance. The power is so intense that he immediately wonders if it has something to do with the missing recruits. At the same time, the crimson-finned king comments on how strange it is to appear in such a dark place with no sunlight. He demands to know whether the final demon truly vanished, and whether the other 5 still reign as finned kings. The final demon gives no response. The crimson-finned king takes that silence as proof that things haven't changed much. He mocks the demons for living so peacefully, then remembers what happened 60 years ago and his anger erupts. He asks if they have already forgotten what they did to him. He attacks the final demon, furious that even though he chose the body of the strongest warrior to carry his spirit, that body has become pathetically weak after crossing through time. To him, spending his remaining power on such a minor enemy feels like a complete waste. If he wants to fully appear again, he needs to wait until he awakens properly. And for that to happen, the strongest warrior must slowly recover all his lost memories. The final demon explains that the fin memories Aang mentioned are tied to their growth. The bumps on their knees and the number of fins they possess show their level. Every time they grow more fins, they require fin memories, something only their kind can inherit. That is why demons are naturally stronger than other races. And the warrior body Aang is using now is apparently similar to theirs. But there is one major rule. Demons can level up by devouring demons of the same rank. Aang, however, must consume demons stronger than himself to unlock the hidden memories and evolve. The one-finned demon, who was acting all cocky a second ago, instantly turns into a desperate coward. It promises to serve the 8-finned demon and do anything he asks. But the crimson-finned king kills it without hesitation, because to him, this thing isn't worthy of serving anyone. Its only useful purpose now is to become food, helping Aang awaken his fin memories. This becomes the first step in Aang's path to reclaiming power. The crimson-finned king wants Aang to slowly reach 8 fins. Once that happens, he will finally awaken from his deep sleep. After saying this, the demon retreats back inside Aang's body. Meanwhile, Aang himself is trapped in brutal memories from the past, back when he and his comrades were badly wounded. One of his companions desperately wished that His Majesty Aang would survive, because a certain woman was still waiting for him. The memory twists into a nightmare, and Aang suddenly opens his eyes in the present, shaken and confused. He wonders if it was all just a dream, but quickly realizes those were memories from long ago, memories that feel far too real. Before he can process anything, his friends walk in, happy to see him awake. Aang is surprised to see them alive and safe. Suju immediately notices that Aang's hair looks different and asks if it was caused by the demonic door. Aang has no idea what she means. Confused, he checks whether everyone is okay, remembering that they were dragged underground by the one-finned demon. Then Giat and the other 2 commanders enter, wanting Aang to explain what happened in the cave. Aang asks why all the seniors decided to visit him. Tada Yashio explains that their brute commander brought all 4 of them back. And naturally she calls him Tang Tang again, embarrassing him right in front of everyone. Joel adds that Giat found the 4 of them unconscious inside a cave. Luckily, the one-finned demon was already gone, because carrying them all back while fighting that monster would have been a nightmare. Tada explains that the other 3 woke up after some time, but none of them remembered what happened in the cave. Aang was the only one who stayed unconscious, and during that time his body went through changes. She hands him a mirror so he can see his altered hair, then asks if he remembers anything from underground. Aang stares at his reflection, trying to understand what happened. Ever since he traveled through time, nothing has made sense. He remembers blacking out after being struck in the cave, but after that, everything is blank. For a moment, he considers telling them the truth about his time travel, but he quickly decides against it. No one would believe him anyway, and they would probably think he had lost his mind. For now, he chooses to keep living under this identity while searching for the truth on his own. So Aang says he briefly woke up inside the underground cave, but fainted again before seeing anything important. This makes Giat think back to the blood splatters he found down there, wondering who caused that mess. Joel looks at Aang and remembers that his name is the same as the mightiest warrior. His combat sense is sharp, but his body is clearly lacking. So Joel asks if Aang has ever fought demons before. Aang says no, explaining that he has always been interested in demon combat and studied it deeply, but he has no real battle experience. Since Aang seems knowledgeable, Tada suggests that Giat shouldn't give up on training him properly. Aang then asks what happened with the warrior test. Suju tells him they passed and are now part of the Stilt team. Lan adds that because of the recent incident, Giat officially formed the 4 of them into one squad. Leyu also points out that they are already behind everyone else. Giat explains that they need to complete missions to earn points, and because Aang was unconscious for 3 full days, their team currently has 0. Aang is shocked to hear he was out for that long. The next day, the 4 of them stand in town wearing their new uniforms. People nearby talk about the new warriors who arrived 3 days ago. Giat appears and congratulates them on becoming official warriors. He praises them for surviving an encounter with a one-finned demon, then tells them he will personally lead their squad. Their squad is one of 9 under his command, and he expects them to compete properly against the others. Aang realizes the rules in this era are much harsher than before. Lan asks if Aang has really never heard of the squad ranking system. From the looks of it, Aang is still completely clueless, and right now their team is sitting at the very bottom of the rankings. Giat explains how the leaderboard works. Squads at the bottom receive monthly punishments like cleaning duty until the next ranking update. Aang finally understands why the town is so clean. Giat then names Leyu as the group leader, and no one seems to object except Aang, who clearly wants that position himself. But he keeps quiet and lets Leyu enjoy her new role. Giat instructs them to pick missions from the board and get used to using their nano wings in combat. If they run into trouble, they can come to him. Once Giat leaves, Leyu suggests checking the mission board immediately since they have a lot of catching up to do. But Suju says there is something even more important first, a group photo. So of course they take one. Later, Giat asks the other seniors what they think about everything. Tada Yashio says that just like he noticed, there were no fin demons left inside the cave. They all seem to have died from some kind of explosion, leaving blood everywhere. That is why Giat suspects the 4 candidates may have been involved. He admits Aang makes him uneasy, especially because there is something strangely familiar about his scent. Tada tells him not to worry too much. She is simply glad the 4 returned alive. Still, she wants him to train them properly because she has no intention of letting his team lose to hers. Giat remains serious about his suspicions toward Aang, so Joel suggests they keep an eye on the kid for now. Meanwhile, at the mission board, Aang is excited to see that all the available missions are a level, each worth 10 points. Lan explains that A-level missions are the highest tier. Suju adds that they are also the most dangerous. Lan continues, saying B-level missions give 6 points while C-level missions give 3. The lower-ranked missions are safer and simpler, but A-level missions are infamous for being deadly. People can and do lose their lives on them. Lei looks at the 3 missions posted and together with Aang suggests taking all of them. Once the mission begins, the 4 start running. Aang activates his core and his nano wings appear, though one wing immediately catches on a rock, because of course his body still refuses to cooperate smoothly. Focusing on the energy from the nano wings, Aang manages to form a sword in his hand. He thinks about how far nanotechnology has advanced over the last 60 years. The team hides behind a rock. Lei says they are ready and explains the objective. 2 no-fin demons are nearby, and both must be taken down at the same time. She reminds everyone to follow the plan and wait for her signal. When the signal comes, they rush in. Lei points out that they have 3 A-level missions to finish, so they can't afford to waste time. This fight needs to end quickly. Lan moves first, disrupting the demons' vision and stopping them from noticing the others. Lei repeats the plan. She, Aang, and Suju will stop the demons from moving. After they strike, Aang wonders how well the demons can fight once their joints are cut. Meanwhile, Lan punches both demons into the air and Lei follows up with a clean finishing move. Their timing is almost perfect. Suju notices the fog has cleared and the insertion is stable. Lan is relieved they managed to disperse the fog. Clearing fog out here is much harder than it was during the exam, but that's exactly what they should expect from an A-level mission, and even just one mission has already taken them a while. Suju finds a red core among the defeated demons and smiles, while Lei is relieved that they finally secured the full 10 points. Aang, however, is surprised to learn that once a mission is completed, the cores break apart. Suju explains that the whole system is built specifically for demon combat. A chip inside the mission form automatically records the result and sends the points straight to the town leaderboard the moment the job is cleared. After the fog outside town is dispersed, she asks Aang if she can inspect the other 2 cores. She checks their size carefully, and after that the team spends the entire afternoon fighting no-fin demons. But even after all that effort, they only manage to collect 3 cores. They still need 7 more. Capturing demons alive is a completely different problem, and it is much harder than just killing them. Lan points out that things have been pretty smooth for them so far, maybe too smooth. Lei then suggests the obvious next move. They should finish the remaining missions, keep taking A-level jobs, and climb straight to the top. Suju takes a picture of Lei, because apparently this girl sees motivation and immediately thinks, yeah, that needs a photo. Lan is also fired up, hoping they can reach first place and stop the other squads from looking down on them. Aang agrees with the idea too. Since every other squad is also earning points, they can't afford to move slowly. The ones who act first get the reward, and the ones who hesitate get left with nothing. Even though Aang has lived for more than 50 years and is technically on his second life, being around these kids makes something inside him spark again. Their energy, their ambition, their recklessness, it almost makes him feel young. So he suggests taking one more mission before sunset, and both Suju and Lan agree. Lei notices that Aang is slowly starting to take charge. Lan soon takes down a few more demons and reports that they have 3 more. But Lei reminds him they are almost out of tranquilizers for no-fin demons, and every squad only gets a limited supply. As Lei checks her gun, Aang takes a closer look. She explains that it is a nanotech tranquilizer gun, designed specifically to capture demons alive. Aang remembers how, in his era, capturing demons meant beating them unconscious with brute force, and researchers constantly complained that the specimens came back with brain damage. Lan says they were lucky to catch these demons at all, especially after using up every tranquilizer they had. By the end of the mission, they have defeated an entire group and captured 3 demons alive, more than 10 demons in total. Suju stretches and reminds everyone that warriors must return before sunset or face punishment, so heading back is probably the smarter move. Aang quietly wonders if he even has a home to return to in this era. Lei says she also needs to hurry back home. All that remains is setting the GPS so the researchers can locate the captured demons. Once the collection team arrives, the mission will officially be complete, but then Aang suddenly asks if anyone else feels that killing intent. In the next instant, red beams shoot from behind them, piercing the captured demons and killing them on the spot. A masked boy steps out, coldly declaring that he won't let them complete the mission. He claims his squad is supposed to handle every A-level mission, then demands to know who gave Lei's squad permission to take them. Aang studies them and immediately understands these people are bad news. Their leader reveals that they are seniors from the Black Gun Squad. He asks a girl on his team how many squads joined this mission, and she replies that there are 3. The leader then scolds Aang's team for failing to greet their seniors. The 4 members of the Black Gun Squad land nearby, accusing Leyu's group of taking A-level missions without permission. In their eyes, this rookie squad is disrespecting them. Naturally, Leyu is furious. They just killed the demons her team worked so hard to capture. One of the boys from the Black Gun Squad asks who leads Leyu's team and why that person didn't come forward to greet them. Leyu answers by charging straight in with a kick, but he dodges and asks how she dares attack her seniors. Leyu makes it very clear that she has no respect for seniors like them. Lan and Suju step in, trying to stop things from getting worse. Suju questions how the Black Gun Squad can be this unreasonable after killing demons that weren't theirs. But the boy only shrugs, saying this is part of the competition and calls them naive. That only makes Leyu even angrier. Her teammates hold her back and ask Aang to step in, hoping he can settle things peacefully. So Aang steps forward and immediately kicks the smug masked boy straight into the ground, knocking his mask off. He says he has never heard anything so shameless in his life, then asks if they have any idea how hard it was to capture those demons alive. Lan and Suju are shocked, but Leyu of course looks pretty satisfied. The boy, now unmasked, tells Aang to prepare for a fight. Leyu is more than ready to join in too, but just before things explode, Giat appears and forces both sides apart. The commander looks annoyed, reminding them that the sun is setting and warning them not to attract more demons. The masked boy tries to play victim, claiming his squad was attacked first, but Suju is already prepared. She shows the photos she took of the Black Gun Squad killing the captured demons. Lan is surprised and asks when she even took those pictures. Giat reminds Aang's team that they shouldn't have taken the A-rank mission in the first place. Leyu defends them, saying they were about to complete it until the Black Gun Squad interfered. But the commander brushes off the entire conflict. He admits that the Black Gun Squad dealt with similar situations when they were rookies too, so he won't interfere. Each squad has to handle these problems on its own. The only thing that matters at Katada is earning points. Directly harming other warriors or putting their lives in danger is forbidden, but sabotaging another team's mission is apparently fair game. He tells them these rules apply to everyone, and they'll face even worse things in the future. The only reason he stepped in now is because it's almost dark, then he orders everyone to return to town. Before leaving, Giat calls out the Black Gun Squad, saying it's embarrassing that they were being pushed around by a rookie team. As the boy walks away, he asks for Aang's name. Aang gives it without hesitation. The boy freezes slightly, realizing that Aang shares the name of the mightiest warrior. He turns to his teammates, clearly unsettled, and vows that he won't let Aang's squad earn easy points. He also wants revenge for the cut on his face and the humiliation he just suffered. Then he puts his mask back on and leads his squad away. Giat explains that the Black Gun Squad is not the top squad, but they move fast and may try to interfere with Leyu's group again. Their leader also uses a gun, and even though he didn't fully show his strength, Giat admits he is powerful for a newcomer. In a real fight, the outcome could go either way. He then orders Aang's team to return to town. Leyu looks at Aang and asks why he acted so recklessly. Then almost immediately she thanks him for kicking that guy. Lan invites Aang to his place for dinner, but Aang refuses. That makes the musclehead wonder if Aang has some secret plan, and Aang admits he does. He plans to go after 3 more demons tonight. Later that night, the speakers ring out, warning everyone not to leave the tower for their own safety. Aang stands off to the side, thinking that he has only heard the announcement and hasn't seen anyone walking around. Since the whole town is locked down, there isn't much else to do. He figures he can check out his home after finishing his secret mission. He notices that security at the main gate is surprisingly loose. There is only 1 guard, so he guesses the town is either short on manpower or simply doesn't expect anyone to sneak out at night. There is a gap in the gate just wide enough for him to slip through, and Aang prepares to head out. But right then, Leyu appears. She already knew he would try this. She looks almost excited, reminding him that she caught on the moment he hinted earlier about going out at night. For once, her sharp perception and attention to detail actually make Aang nervous. She asks why he is sneaking out so late and whether he has somewhere special to go. Aang jokes that he ate too much and just wants to walk it off. Then he admits that he wants to surprise everyone in the morning and make up for the mission ruined by the masked boy earlier. Now that Leyu has found him, his plan is already half exposed. As they move through town, Leyu catches up and asks about the details. She can barely wait to see the masked boy's face when he realizes what happened tomorrow. Aang notices her giggling and points it out, but Leyu immediately denies it, even though she is clearly enjoying this. On top of the gate, 2 guards sit around yawning. One complains that night guard duty is awful and says they should just close the gate completely since nobody is supposed to leave anyway. The other guard, while snacking, warns him not to say that too loudly or the 3rd captain might hear. He explains that the gap is left open for emergencies. A few years ago, refugees reached the town at night, but demons attacked them because the gate took too long to open. Since then, every town keeps a small opening just in case. The first guard apologizes, and the second tells him not to worry, saying he'll get used to the rough job eventually. Then he pulls out an adult photo book. The first guard notices it has new pictures of female warriors from other towns, which apparently cost an absurd amount of money. While the two perverts get distracted, Aang and Lei Yu quietly slip through the gate. Outside, they notice the old exam ground is covered in even denser fog than before. They move to another area, and Lei Yu says this place is less likely to be noticed because it's far from the walls and surrounded by a rotting forest. Aang explains the plan to her. He will lure the demons out, and she needs to aim for their heads. Since they have no tranquilizers left, they'll rely on pure strength to knock the demons unconscious. He steps into the fog and tells her to wait for him. Lei Yu trusts Aang's skills, but she still feels uneasy as he disappears into the thick mist. She can't tell whether she is excited or worried, so she focuses and stays ready. Soon, Lei Yu is impressed by how smoothly Aang lures the demons out. He only brings one no-fin demon at a time, making each capture much easier. To her, this brute force method feels strange, but also surprisingly fun. She picks it up quickly and performs well. When Aang gives the signal, Lei Yu moves in, and the two of them handle the demon with light but precise strikes, almost like they are playing with it. They continue until it finally collapses unconscious. For Lei Yu, it feels like stepping into an older, rougher way of fighting. Exhausted, Aang realizes just how much training this new body still needs. In his past life, grabbing no-fin demons was child's play, but now even this takes serious effort. Counting the latest one, Lei Yu reminds him they have captured 3 demons, and she is completely worn out. Aang tells her to leave all 3 demons there. Lei Yu hesitates, asking if he's sure. Aang is confident. No-fin demons aren't smart enough to rescue one another, and they probably won't wander into town either. A hard hit to the head should keep them unconscious long enough for the team to finish everything in the morning. Lei Yu is impressed by how much he knows. Her reaction makes Aang realize he may have said too much. Then suddenly 2 one-fin demons appear, clearly drawn in by the scent of humans nearby. Aang's expression tightens. 2 one-fin demons at the same time is bad news. He knows he and Lei Yu are nowhere near ready for that kind of fight. The town alarm suddenly roars through the night, and the 3 seniors rush straight to the top of the gate. Joel tells the guards that one-fin demons have been spotted, so they need to activate the spotlights immediately. Tada Yashio asks if they are the same demons from the exam, but Giat confirms they are different ones. The guards spot 2 one-fin demons outside the walls, and Joel starts wondering if something is drawing them closer. He orders everyone to stay calm, close the gates, and prepare the defense cannons. But Giat immediately yells at them not to close the gates, because someone is still outside, and when he sees Aang and Lei Yu standing beyond the wall, his anger spikes instantly. He demands to know why those 2 left town this late at night. Tada Yashio is just as shocked, desperately asking what the kids are doing outside at this hour. Then they notice 3 no-fin demons tied up nearby. Giat quickly understands what happened. These 2 came out here to make up for the mission that got ruined earlier. Joel isn't even surprised, because apparently, this is exactly the kind of reckless mistake new warriors make when they get too confident. But Giat is furious and decides that once those 2 come back, they are absolutely getting punished. He charges toward the demons, while Tada Yashio tells Joel she will follow Giat, leaving the rest to him. Joel sighs, realizing his well-earned night of drinking has just been completely ruined. Meanwhile, the moment the one-finned demons see the warriors, Aang tells Lei Yu to hold back. He wants to wait for backup and figure out whether he is the real target. He wonders if this is connected to what happened before, maybe his reincarnation, or that strange incident inside the underground tunnel. Lei Yu, however, suggests they fight together. One of the demons asks if they really plan to resist, then looks at Lei Yu and calls her useless. In the next second, it lunges at them, but Aang pushes Lei Yu away and saves her from the attack. The demon notices Aang's reflexes and comments on how quick he is. Lei Yu kicks at the demon, but when water appears, she wonders if her aim was off. The second demon suddenly traps her with 3 strands, while the first demon warns Aang to stay sharp. Then Giat arrives and slams a punch into one of the demons. He declares that he won't let them hurt the kids and tells everyone to remain calm. Tada Yashio quickly identifies the enemies. One is a blue core water type, while the other is a red core earth type, so she decides to focus on rescuing Lei Yu. The earth demon thanks the gods that it managed to block Giat's attack, because if it hadn't, its ugly head would have been blown clean off. Joel sees the battle turning into a standoff and orders them to pause the cannon fire. But then a girl rushes over and reports that a huge number of no-fin demons are approaching. Joel asks how many. She says it is an entire horde. With that many demons closing in, Joel orders the alarm to keep ringing and tells every warrior to get to their station. As the alarm blares across town, warriors rush onto the walls. Seeing the horde moving in, Giat realizes these demons came prepared. Aang notices that the monsters are heading straight for the town, and Tadayashio says the two one-fin demons must have called them here. Meanwhile, Lei shouts for them not to worry about her and to protect the town instead. She blames herself for being careless and feels like she has failed as a leader. But before she can say more, a demon covers her mouth and silences her. Giat and the others pull back and the second demon launches another attack. Giat warns Tadayashio to watch out and she quickly breaks apart the spikes flying toward them. Aang notices something strange. The demons are not really aiming for him. As he moves past one of the one-fin demons, it actually tells him to keep going. Giat sees the demon let Aang pass and immediately wonders why it would do that. Then the demon lunges at the seniors again, warning them that one careless move means death. At the same time, another demon drags Lei away. Aang suspects this is a trap meant to separate him from the captains. He tries to stay calm, knowing his current body is far too weak to charge in blindly. The two seniors shout at him not to chase after Lei, warning that he has no chance against a one-fin demon. But Aang cannot ignore her. Her eyes feel strangely familiar, and even if he knows it is reckless, he cannot leave her behind. So he ignores their warnings and runs after her. The demon places Lei on the ground and starts talking about how interesting humans are. It has heard that humans scream when they fall into despair, so it orders her to beg for mercy and satisfy its curiosity. When it notices her mouth is still covered, it realizes why she hasn't made a sound. It removes the restraint and tells her to beg, but Lei refuses. To her, a lowly one-fin demon is not worthy of her pleas. The demon asks why she thinks it is beneath her and Lei answers with pride. She comes from a martial family. She will never kneel before an enemy because showing weakness is a disgrace. If the demon wants something from her, then it can either kill her or fight her properly. Her words anger the demon and it strikes her, making it clear that death is exactly what awaits her. Just then, Aang arrives and tells the demon to let Lei go. Lei is shocked to see him alone and asks why he came by himself. The demon, on the other hand, is thrilled because its plan worked perfectly. Aang, the real target, has finally arrived. Hearing that, Lei starts wondering why Aang is being targeted in the first place. Aang asks if she is okay. Lei says she is fine but immediately asks again why he came alone. She warns him that he cannot keep up with a one-fin demon and tells him to run. The demon hits Lei again, ordering her to stay quiet. Aang begs it not to hurt her, saying it can take him instead if it leaves her alone. But the demon ignores his words and attacks, saying both of them are going to die anyway. Aang tries to strike back, but the demon dodges and counters with ease. He realizes his body still cannot react fast enough. The demon notices that Aang smells like a demon and starts questioning what he really is. Aang is also surprised, realizing this demon might be a water type. That makes him wonder just how much demons have changed over the last 50 years, gaining traits and abilities he never saw before. His weak body can only imitate his old movements. He cannot fight like this for long. Lei watches with growing fear, realizing Aang will die at this rate. She curses him for coming alone, but she also decides she cannot just stand there and do nothing. Aang finds an opening and moves to strike, but the demon mocks him, saying he already killed a one-fin demon in the cave, so why is he so weak now? Aang has no idea what the demon means. He does not remember killing any one-fin demon. The demon dislikes his tone and decides to punish him. It causes Aang severe pain and warns that if he lies again, he will die. Then it attacks once more, sending Aang crashing through the trees. Aang feels a sharp pain tear through his body and worries his organs may be badly damaged. Lei sees him struggling and realizes she has to help. The demon walks toward Aang, threatening to eat him if he refuses to reveal the truth. It wants to devour him and evolve. But just as it reaches for Aang, Lei suddenly charges in and kicks the demon away, warning it to leave her teammate alone. Aang realizes she must have forced herself free, even though her wrists and ankles are visibly burning from the restraints. Lei stands in front of the demon, daring it to kill her instead. As the leader of the squad, she refuses to let her teammate die while she is still breathing. The demon accepts her challenge and tells her not to dodge. Then it launches attacks at Aang from multiple angles, and Lei stands her ground, blocking every single one. Aang shouts for her to move, but Lei refuses. She does not want him getting hurt, so she tells him to stay quiet and let her focus. Then spikes suddenly burst from the ground and pierce through her feet. The demon grabs her and says it will not kill her immediately. First, it wants to humiliate her, break her pride, and finally make her scream. Aang lies on the ground, desperate to save her, but his body will not move the way he wants. Hopelessness crashes over him. Even after reincarnating, he is forced to watch a teammate die again. He hates that this time he is the one who needs saving. He wonders how he is supposed to protect anyone when he cannot even protect himself. Why does he have to lose comrades again? Why is he still this weak? Then suddenly, a massive aura explodes from his body, breaking Lei free from the demon's grip. The demon is stunned by Aang's speed. Aang gently catches Lei, feeling proud of her. For a first-time squad leader, she did well, more than well. From here on, he will handle it. He sets her down carefully. The demon suddenly catches a familiar scent coming from Aang and realizes there is some kind of secret hidden inside him. Aang feels it too, a violent power rising in his chest like it is about to burst. In a surge of rage, his core erupts with blinding light. The demon wonders if what it is sensing is a kingfin core. Leu, barely conscious, sees rays of light pouring from Aang as he stands against the monster. It looks like Aang has finally awakened his own one fin. Meanwhile, the seniors are still fighting another demon. That demon senses an aura similar to its own, but before it can act, Giat punches it hard. Tada Yashio follows with a brutal kick, blasting a huge hole through its body. Enraged, the demon begins glowing, preparing to self-destruct in midair. Tada Yashio realizes what it is about to do and asks Giat what his plan is. The demon screams that all humans will die, but before it can explode, a spear-like blast from the defense artillery shoots it far away. Thankfully, the cannon takes the monster down before its self-destruction can wipe everyone out. Joel, who is busy fighting off countless no-fin demons, sees the horde closing in and warns the other two seniors about the approaching threat. Tada Yashio tells Giat they need to return to town. Giat worries about Aang and Leu, but Tada refuses to abandon the battlefield. She reminds him that they are warriors first, not just captains, so after making the harsh call, they hurry back to defend the city. Elsewhere, the one-finned demon stares at Aang, confused by why he feels so similar to them yet still looks human. It cannot understand Aang's human fin because something like that should not exist. Aang wonders if his reincarnation somehow gave him demonic power. Then he uses a healing ability on Leu. Seeing Aang heal her so easily, the demon is shocked and asks if he is a wood type. Aang realizes this power likely came from absorbing the one-finned wood-type demon earlier, which means if he defeats and absorbs this one-finned water-type demon, he might be able to gain water abilities too. The demon is shaken by Aang's strength, something it has never seen before. Roots begin to appear behind Aang as he declares that he wants to take the demon's power for himself. The demon panics the moment it realizes Aang has absorbed a wood-type demon. And seeing a demon show fear for the first time in his life, Aang enjoys it far more than he probably should. Aang steps forward, calm but dangerous, telling the demon to stop holding back and show its full strength. He wants to measure it properly. The demon, still confused, demands to know what he really is, human or demon, before charging in without hesitation. Vines erupt from Aang's side, twisting like living weapons, grabbing onto the demon as he taps into the abilities of wood-type demons. The creature howls in pain, then retaliates, unleashing hidden power. Water whips slice through the air toward Aang, but he dodges cleanly. The demon rushes again, claiming it will show no mercy, bragging that Aang could never understand true demonic power. It lands a heavy kick, sending him crashing into the trees. Aang admits internally that he still doesn't fully grasp this demon's strength. But if the creature understood how quickly he adapts, it would realize who it's facing, the strongest warrior learning in real time. He knows one thing for sure: if he wants to win, he has to keep evolving mid-fight. The demon, shocked by Aang's wood-type healing, gives itself away for a moment. Aang immediately capitalizes, striking again, trapping it in roots before grabbing its face. He mutters that he's already tired of this fight, then something shifts. The demon feels something wrong inside its body, and suddenly, it bursts apart, leaving behind only its face and a water crystal. The demon claims it can dissolve and survive, but Aang calmly points out that its core cannot escape. No matter how cocky a demon is, once its core is gone, it's finished. He pulls out the water core and reminds the creature that even a 7-fin demon dies if its core is destroyed. Then, without hesitation, he crushes it and drinks it. As the essence flows into him, Aang notes that it doesn't even taste that bad. But inside him, another voice stirs, urging him to devour more demons and even kill humans. For a moment, that influence slips out and he lashes out toward Leu's shield, almost as if trying to consume her too. But the real Aang pushes back. He refuses. He won't harm his own teammate. He tells the voice to shut up. He came here to save her, not destroy her. Back at the main gate, warriors are still fighting off waves of no-fin demons. Lan notices Aang and Leu are missing, and Suju mentions rumors that 2 warriors snuck out and were targeted by a one-fin demon. Lan panics, realizing it might be them, but Suju shuts it down, saying there's no time to confirm anything. They have to survive the horde first. The 2 senior captains rejoin the fight. Joel checks on their core status, relieved to hear they're still holding up. In the middle of battle, he realizes something important. Since one fin demon has already been taken down, the rest are disorganized, moving like a panicked mob. He orders them to take advantage of that and push the demons back. The other captains agree, launching themselves forward and releasing massive blasts from their cores. Tada Yashio notes this is already the 2nd time they've pushed their cores to such limits, while Giat wishes his fire core had more stamina to maintain this level. Joel comments on how dangerous explosive red cores can be, then dives into the horde, cutting through demons from above. Suju watches in awe, realizing this is what a captain's power looks like. Lan, inspired, thinks this must be the level of a one-fin core and dreams of reaching that strength one day. As the battle continues, Joel checks in with the others. They confirm they're still holding strong and the plan is working. The demons are being pushed back. Then suddenly Joel senses something strange. He points forward. A figure is approaching. It's Aang carrying Leu in his arms. Tada Yashio immediately wonders what happened to the one-finned demon. Joel, however, feels uneasy. Even if the horde is shaken, Aang shouldn't be walking this casually among them. One wrong move and they could tear him apart. And right on cue, the demons try to attack him. The three captains jump in to intercept, but then Aang looks at them, just a glance, a terrifying one, and the demons freeze then start backing away. Moments later, they turn and run. The warriors on the wall erupt in cheers as the horde retreats. Some believe the demons fled because of the captain's overwhelming strength. Others agree, convinced the display of power broke their morale. Everyone praises the captains, but Giat isn't convinced. He quietly wonders, was it really them, or was it Aang? As Aang calms down, he sees the captains approaching. Inside his mind, a voice returns, the eight-finned demon mocking him, claiming he relied on its power. Aang demands to know who it is. The voice replies that they've met before, more than 50 years ago, so it's no surprise he doesn't remember. Aang realizes the truth. This is one of the eight-finned demons. He asks how many exist, but the demon only says he'll learn in time. Then it manifests before him, introducing itself as the Crimson King, the strongest of their kind. It notices that Aang isn't afraid, which makes sense given who he once was. It even praises him for resisting its influence. Then it promises something strange. It won't harm him. Aang demands answers, why it chose his body, what happened to his original one. Another eight-finned demon appears behind him, touching his face, saying he'll understand eventually. They explain that his body is now tied to crimson power, and for both their sake he must grow stronger. With time they'll reach perfection together. That's when Aang snaps. He refuses to accept being treated like a tool, like humans are nothing. He punches the demon. In reality, his body jolts forward, grabbing Leu by the collar as if about to strike her. Then he snaps back to his senses, and immediately realizes what he's doing. Leu reacts instantly with a slap. The others pin him down, demanding to know what just happened. At that moment a man arrives, Jun Gong. He tells everyone to stop, saying they're treating their savior like an enemy. The others greet him as master while Leu calls him father. Joel explains to Aang that this man is the head of the Sidhu martial family. Aang finally connects the dots. This is Leu's father. So he apologizes. But Jun Gong thanks him instead, on behalf of his entire family, for saving his daughter. He then tells the captains they can stay in the training area and mentions a celebration will be held that night for surviving the demon horde. The captains apologize, but Jun Gong laughs it off, saying he watched them grow up and they should treat the place like home. He adds that Leu is stubborn by nature, so they shouldn't hesitate to discipline her if needed. After everyone leaves, only Aang and the three captains remain. Giat immediately questions him, demanding to know everything about the one-finned demon from the exam and the recent attack. Joel backs him up, clearly suspicious. Aang asks if they're serious, pointing out that he and Leu barely survived that encounter. Joel counters, saying it took two captains to defeat one demon, so how did this kid manage it alone? Then he presses harder. Maybe Aang is working with the demons. That would explain why they keep letting him escape. Aang feels the pressure rising. If he tells the truth, they might kill him. If they don't believe he's human, he becomes the enemy. Joel steps forward serious. Aang realizes he might have to fight them, but Tada Yashio steps in and shuts it down. She points out that only four-finned demons can take human form, and it's unlikely one would show up in a small town like this. Giat adds that demons are selfish creatures. They don't save people. Since Aang saved Leu, he can't be one of them. Joel backs off, laughing it off as teasing, saying the kid must be exhausted. Leu confirms she remembers nothing after passing out during the fight, which makes the captains even more curious how Aang got her out. They ask if he really defeated the one-finned demon alone. Aang remembers everything, and realizes he never planned how to explain it, so he improvises. He claims he has a unique ability, something only he can do. He says he can temporarily amplify his core beyond its limits, pushing it to explosive levels. That's his trump card. Tada Yashio notes that it sounds similar to how they push their cores to unleash explosive force. Aang plays along. Joel still isn't fully convinced. Giat brings up the cave incident, asking if Aang used the same trick there too, and Aang, without hesitation, confirms it. That was the first time he used it. Because Aang's body absorbs the core's strength the moment he activates it, he managed to blow that demon apart while it was distracted. But since it was his first time using that power, his body couldn't handle the backlash, and he passed out right after. He says he tried the same technique again to rescue Leu, only to black out once more because the strain was too much. Surprisingly, Giat actually considers the explanation. Aang's story would explain why his chest core was damaged both times. The power surged past his limit and nearly wrecked him from the inside. Tada Yashio agrees that if Aang is telling the truth, then his condition makes sense. Their own technique works in a similar way, but they've trained for years to reduce the burden when releasing explosive core power. Aang, on the other hand, has no control over it yet, so she warns him not to use it again until he learns how to handle the recoil. Giat shares the same opinion, though deep down, he is clearly itching to test Aang himself and see just how much potential this student really has. Eventually, they move to an open training field and Aang prepares to face his commander. He can tell Giat still doesn't fully trust him. Giat gets ready and tells Aang to strike first. Aang braces himself, wondering how he is supposed to fight someone like him. His current power is nowhere near what he had in his past life. His body can't survive a proper all-out battle, and he starts debating whether he should tap into the demon power inside him. Before he can decide, Giat suddenly rushes forward and attacks. Aang dodges instantly, but the impact destroys part of the training ground behind him. Tada Yashio immediately yells at Giat to hold back, but the brute commander is too busy admiring Aang's reaction speed. For a rookie, it isn't bad at all. Aang realizes he is only surviving because of experience from his previous life, and even then, his body is already close to its limit. Giat attacks again, forcing Aang to keep dodging. Once more, the commander tears through sections of the training ground like the place owes him money. Then Giat closes the distance and grabs Aang by the neck, asking if that is all he has. Aang can't break free. In the next second, he is slammed into the side wall. Joel watches with concern, feeling like Giat is taking this too far and suggests they stop him. But Tada Yashio believes the commander wouldn't hurt someone without a reason. Giat keeps provoking Aang, mocking him and questioning whether he really deserves to call himself a genius. That insult hits Aang right where it hurts. He remembers being called a king by warriors in his past life. If Giat knew who he truly was, he would never look down on him like this. And since Aang already claimed to be a genius, now he has to prove it, so he stops holding back. He draws out the demon's strength, releasing a heavy aura that immediately startles Tada Yashio. Now Aang challenges his commander. It is his turn to attack. Giat feels the massive aura pouring out of this small student and finally gets serious. Aang realizes that by using the demon power, he can force the low-quality core in his chest to operate at a higher level. If he changes how he controls the energy, he may be able to bring out the full potential of this body. Joel wonders if he can feel Aang's synchronization improving. Tada Yashio questions whether a small town like Helios could really produce someone this talented. Giat notices it too. Aang's synchronization rate has reached 40% and it's still climbing. Leiyu's rate was 39%, which means Aang has now surpassed her. Aang warns his commander to stay focused, then rushes forward with a punch. Giat realizes the kid is now twice as fast, but Aang brushes it off, knowing this improvement is still barely anything compared to what he once had. Giat studies him closely. Aang is attacking the moments where his reaction slows, using low strikes to confuse his rhythm. He is not fighting like a reckless rookie. Then Aang lands another kick. Joel watches the relentless assault and is forced to wonder where this boy learned to fight like that. Just then, Jun Gong arrives, warning everyone that standing too close to Giat during a fight is never safe. The two seniors quickly approach him, apologizing for using his battlefield as a sparring ground and for all the trouble they've caused. Jun Gong looks at the shattered floor and calmly asks if this level of destruction can really be called trouble. Both seniors immediately promise to repair it. Jun Gong waves it off, more interested in the boy who shares the name of the mightiest warrior. He wonders how Aang will handle Giat's attacks. Meanwhile, Giat grabs Aang by the leg, setting up what looks like checkmate. Jun Gong watches and explains that Giat has always fought like this, waiting for the perfect chance to counter with precision. Years of fighting demons have sharpened his judgment to a terrifying level. But just when everyone thinks Aang is about to lose, he flips the situation. With a sharp maneuver, Aang slams his own head into Giat's face, landing a clean hit. Giat has no idea what just happened. Aang explains the trick. The human skull is strong, but the area between the eyes is softer. He used that exact weak point. He attacks again, even while taking hits, but Giat remains standing like a wall. The onlookers are stunned. Then Aang releases a powerful blast that shatters the ground, showing a technique that works as both offense and defense. He decides to push the demon's power even further. He attacks again, and for the first time, Giat actually backs away. Then the commander disappears for a moment and reappears behind him. Tada Yashio is stunned when Aang uses the dust from the broken ground to slip into Giat's blind spot. Giat is irritated after seeing his own move used against him. He warns Aang not to forget that it is his technique, and he knows it better than anyone. Jun Gong can tell Giat is starting to lose his edge against his student. Aang throws a punch but deliberately misses. Giat is shocked, wondering why he didn't land the hit. Aang explains that Giat has a habit of restraining opponents instead of attacking head-on. Aang used that tendency against him. The earlier headbutt blurred Giat's vision, creating the perfect opening for a final blow, but Aang missed on purpose. He wasn't here to beat his commander. He was only here to prove his skill and strength. By now, Jun Gong is truly curious about what Aang is capable of. The gate opens, and Suju enters with the others. She came to remind everyone that dinner is almost ready, and Leiyu's family has prepared a large meal in the main room. But once she sees the destroyed training ground, she immediately blames the captain. Meanwhile, Joel teases Giat for losing so badly. Jun Gong cuts through the noise, reminding them that the sparring is over, then invites everyone to dinner. Aang is hungry too, so he thanks Jun Gong for the invitation. As Aang walks away, Jun Gong reflects on his determination, power, control, and battle experience. The conclusion is obvious. This kid has serious potential. Then Jun Gong teases his daughter, casually shipping her with Aang and embarrassing her on the spot. Later, everyone gathers for dinner. Jun Gong raises his drink and speaks on behalf of the town. He thanks them for protecting everyone and honors the warriors who fought hard. He gives special praise to Aang for saving his daughter. Aang stands up and says there's no need to thank him. But just as he is about to take a sip of alcohol, Giat smacks him and reminds him that he is not old enough to drink. Aang argues that he is 18, which is exactly why he was allowed to take the warrior exam in the first place. As the mood grows lively, Jun Gong smiles at his daughter, still very obviously pushing the Aang and Lu agenda. Then the scene shifts back to the last conversation between father and daughter. Jun Gong believes Leiyu is highly skilled, but Aang's talent is just as impressive. And if a boy is that capable, maybe a strong girl like Leiyu could take interest in him. Leiyu thinks about it for a moment, then decides Aang is kind of silly, so she drops the thought and starts eating. Suju begins praising the food, saying it feels incredibly luxurious. Lan is also there, and he asks Aang how he defeated the one-fin demon. Giat explains that Aang pulled a huge amount of power from his core, becoming stronger for a short time. Tada Yashio adds that it's similar to how captains use their cores, but Aang took a dangerous gamble to escape death. Without training, that kind of power can badly damage the body, and using it again could cause permanent harm. She also says that watching Aang spar with Giat was eye-opening. His power is surprising, but without proper training, his body might break before he can fully use it. Internally, Aang knows that if he told them he absorbed 2 one-fin demon cores and gained wood-type healing, that would be way too much information. So he plays along. He confirms the captain's explanation, saying that is why he passed out. Clearly, he needs to train his body more. Lan is amazed by Aang's abilities and says he's incredible, hoping the rest of them won't fall behind. Leiyu is also impressed, finally understanding how Aang was able to save her. Giat then reveals that he originally planned to punish Aang and Leiyu for sneaking out and messing up the mission, but since they defeated a one-fin demon, he'll let it go this time. He warns them not to repeat that kind of reckless stunt. Joel also reminds everyone that there's no time to relax, because the squad competition is still going. Speaking of that, Tada Yashio points out that Leiyu's squad is currently in last place, so they need to start working hard from the next day onward. Aang, however, is confident. His squad will reach the top. A month later, the squad competition enters its final intense phase. To gain more points, squads begin chasing a-level missions, the dangerous ones with the highest rewards. Leiyu talks with her squad and decides they will target a fattened sheep for high points while challenging other groups. The leader of the Black Gun Squad mocks her for making such a bold decision, reminding her of the kick she took last time. Leiyu refuses to take his nonsense and challenges him to a 10-point duel. The Black Gun Squad accepts immediately, more than ready to settle the score with Aang's team after what happened before. The scene shifts to the town's sparring arena, where everyone hears about the duel and starts talking. The Black Gun Squad leader looks at Leiyu's team and reminds them that the crowd is getting bigger. If they want to back out, now is their last chance. After all, if his squad looks like they're bullying a rookie team, it won't exactly make them look good. But Aang doesn't care about the crowd or the excuses. To him, the result hasn't been decided yet, so instead of wasting time with empty threats, they should settle it with fists. The Black Gun Squad believes their vice leader can easily handle Leiyu's team, even with Leiyu involved. At least that's what these overconfident seniors think. Aang warns them not to underestimate Leiyu just because she's a girl. She is anything but average. As usual, Suju starts snapping photos, making sure she captures every brutal moment of Leiyu's fight. Leiyu tells her opponent to hurry up and finish this quickly because she wants those 10 points fast. The vice leader already knows Leiyu is from the Sidhu family, so she hopes Leiyu can at least show her something interesting. Leiyu charges first, but the girl blocks her attack. The vice leader is confused, wondering how a green core recovery type can move with the speed of a blue core agility type. Leiyu disarms her and explains that veteran teams may have more experience and better teamwork, but that doesn't always mean their individual skill is stronger. Team tactics matter, but personal strength still decides a lot. The pain from Leiyu's strike kicks in fast, and the opponent realizes Leiyu forced power into her muscles, making them spasm. With the girl wide open, Leiyu attacks repeatedly without giving her time to recover. The Black Gun Squad leader looks absolutely devastated as his team starts taking the L in front of everyone. Leiyu knocks the girl down and reminds her that the Sidhu family specializes in physical techniques. The crowd cheers for her overwhelming performance, while the defeated opponent can barely believe what just happened. After losing 10 points, the Black Gun squad leader immediately challenges Leiyu's team again, this time for 20 points. Naturally, Leiyu accepts without hesitation, excited by the chance to grab 20 more points. But this time, Aang steps in and decides to handle it while she rests. The masked boy tells Aang he isn't good enough and says he wants to fight Leiyu instead. Aang reminds him that Leiyu is the leader, so if he wants to challenge her, he needs to prove himself by beating him first. The guy doesn't look completely confident facing Aang, but his pride won't let him back down. He threatens to beat Aang so badly that even his mother won't recognize him. Aang's teammates are shocked by the threat, while Suju prepares her camera for what is probably about to become a legendary shot. Aang and the Black Gun squad leader take their positions on the battlefield. The leader draws his gun and explains that he has switched to training bullets. They will hurt, but they won't seriously injure Aang. To Aang, training bullets are completely new. In his era, warriors used real bullets from the very beginning. Still, he casually tells his opponent not to miss. One Black Gun squad member laughs, saying that's exactly what rookies say, because their leader has excellent aim. The leader warns Aang that too much confidence will get him killed someday. Then he allows Aang to choose any weapon he wants, since he doesn't want the rookie claiming he was bullied later. Aang thinks back to the unique weapon he used in the past, but since he doesn't have it now, he decides to fight barehanded. He asks if that's acceptable. The Black Gun squad leader is stunned, and even his teammates start wondering what Aang is planning. Then the guy laughs, asking if Aang seriously wants to fight without a weapon. To him, all rookies are the same, arrogant and clueless. Still, he agrees. But he warns Aang that even if a lion hunts a rabbit, it doesn't hold back. In the same way, he won't show mercy, and he plans to take back every point they lost. For Aang, this is perfect. A live fight like this gives him a chance to train the demon inside him and test its strength. The match begins. Aang dodges the first bullet and charges forward, but the leader calls him an idiot for rushing straight in. Then he reveals a guided missile-like weapon in his right hand and fires multiple shots. Aang realizes these high-speed bullets are difficult to dodge, even for agile demons. But that only makes him more satisfied with this opponent, because this is exactly the kind of fight that can sharpen him. He activates his water skill and moves through the attacks. The crowd watches in shock as Aang dodges the bullets smoothly, almost like flowing water. After watching his shots miss again and again, the Black Gun squad leader threatens Aang with the trump card in his hand. One of his squad members explains that their leader's gun can store power and inject energy into bullets, making each shot far stronger. As Aang closes in on the gun, the leader challenges him, asking how he plans to dodge accurate explosive bullets at point-blank range. But Aang doesn't dodge. He punches the gun, sending the shot flying into the sky. Then he strikes the opponent's hand, takes control of the weapon, and follows up with a kick that sends the leader crashing down. Aang places his foot on the gun, claiming victory and earning 20 points. The defeated leader trembles, muttering that this should be impossible. Lan and Suju praise Aang's performance, while Leiyu, who couldn't clearly follow what happened, wonders where he learned those skills. With their wins against the Black Gun squad, Leiyu's team gains 30 points and catches everyone's attention. Soon, more warriors come to challenge them, including older squads looking for the thrill of victory. Leiyu's squad accepts point-based challenges one after another. They win more than they lose, and their ranking rises fast. By the end of the month, despite plenty of jealous eyes watching them, Leiyu's squad climbs all the way to the top and earns a place in the finals. Eventually, the final competition comes down to 3 squads. The scene shifts to the Colosseum where the final battles will be held. The 3 seniors walk toward the arena, and Joel gets emotional every time they return to these ruins at the end of the month. Watching their squads grow step by step is genuinely heartwarming for him. Tada Yashio is fascinated by how Leiyu's squad shot up the rankings in just a few days after beating 8 teams. She heard they used their points strategically to challenge other squads and won most of their fights. Still, she thinks the method is ridiculous and asks Giat to stop it, but Giat refuses. They earned those points with their own strength, so there is no reason to interfere. Besides, with Aang and Leiyu on the team, they are already dangerous. He also secretly watched some of their fights and noticed that the other 2 members are not weak either. As they arrive at the gate, Joel remembers that it has been years since a new squad entered the finals, which explains why the outside crowd is making so much noise. Giat opens the gate, steps into the Colosseum, and says he is looking forward to the matches. In the crowd, one member of Tada Yashio's squad throws shade at Giat and his team, mocking Leiyu's squad for not even having a proper name. Another girl from Tada's team warns her that others might hear. By the way, Tada Yashio's team is called the Sunflower Squad. Joel's team is known as the Luminous Squad. Both teams seem to believe Giat's side is just a bunch of rookies, and all the hype around them is nothing but rumors. Meanwhile, Leiyu's squad stretches and gets ready. Suju notes that their opponents look pretty intimidating. Lan explains that the Sunflower and Luminous squads are the strongest teams under Tada, Yashio, and Joel, and they are famous throughout Helios. He adds that the next 3 captains who replace the current ones will likely come from these top squads. Aang stays calm and tells his team it's fine. They just need to give it everything they have. Even though his current body still lacks his old hidden power, he refuses to lose to anyone whose strength is only around the level of a one-finned demon. To him, winning should be manageable. Honestly, he is more curious about the prize. Meanwhile, Tada Yashio gathers her squad. When the members come together, their leader tells her captain that they are ready, then asks for something special if they win, like a shopping trip with their beloved captain in a B-level town. Right on time, the Luminous squad arrives and immediately throws shade at the Sunflower squad. While other squads dream of bigger achievements, Sunflower apparently can't think beyond shopping. A girl from the Sunflower squad gets annoyed and says he would never understand how important clothes shopping is to girls. At this point, it is painfully obvious why Sunflower and Luminous never get along. The captains of all teams finally arrive. Once the seniors finish their banter, Giat orders Aang's squad to gather too. When all 3 squads stand together, he says that since they already know each other somewhat, there is no need for long introductions, so he gets straight to the rules. The finals will include both team matches and solo matches, and the squad with the highest total points will win. Tada Yashio adds that the rules for each match will be revealed later, and they will also announce the prize to keep everyone motivated. She is sure the contestants will love what is waiting for them. Joel then announces the first prize, a one-way training session in a B-level town. The contestants immediately get excited and Leyu's squad is especially fired up. Without wasting any more time, Giat orders the squad leaders to come forward and draw lots. As the leaders draw, the other warriors keep guessing what kind of challenges they will face. Aang silently thinks about how different this era is from his previous life. Back then, town classifications were not this clear. Each town was independent and every settlement had to survive on its own. He remembers Lan explaining it earlier. This town is C-level, the lowest rank. Above it are B-level and A-level towns where stronger warriors gather. And at the very top is Grand City, the only S-level settlement, home to warriors as strong as 5 or 6-finned demons and even the elite 7-finned warriors. Aang wonders how that compares to his old hometown. He also wonders whether his old town still exists after the Great Battle. For a moment, memories of his old teammates rise in his mind. Then Lan calls out to him, noticing he has been spacing out. Suju tells him to get ready, because their squad is first to compete. Giat announces that every weapon has been switched to training mode, and the first match will be Leyu's squad against the Luminous squad. Suddenly, Suju realizes they still don't even have a squad name. She wonders if they should come up with one, and Lan agrees, saying they'll need something good for when they become famous. Aang thinks it's a solid idea but tells them they can talk about it later. Meanwhile, Leyu is tense. The Luminous squad leader sneers at them, asking how a messy rookie squad like theirs expects to win. He orders his members to take down their opponents while he personally handles Leyu. The signal is given and the battle begins. Leyu quickly realizes this match is turning into a series of one-on-one fights, which only benefits the stronger opponent. She regrets letting the situation shift this way and immediately tells her team to regroup. Aang sees that Leyu has read their tactics correctly. Their best move is to remove the enemy leader first. The Luminous squad's biggest weakness is simple: if their leader falls, their whole team's rhythm collapses. Leyu's judgment is sharp and Aang respects it, but the opponent also catches on. He orders his team to regroup and change tactics, and all of them begin targeting Leyu. Leyu tells her squad to support her and cover her movements. Her teammates respond instantly, blocking the other 3 Luminous members with precise strikes. The Luminous leader sees Leyu coming straight toward him and warns her not to underestimate him. Then he charges forward to meet her. He attacks with a small red glow in his hand. Leyu instantly tells her team to close their eyes. She realizes he used energy in his palm to create a flashbang, one so careless that it even hits his own teammates. Watching such a cheap move, Giat gets annoyed and asks Joel why he never taught the Luminous leader to fight without dirty tactics. A flash attack might work in a solo duel, but in a team fight it hurts allies too. Joel replies that he warned the kid many times but he never listened. Some habits only disappear after a painful lesson. Inside the arena, the cocky leader thinks rookies should learn not to act arrogant. But before he can launch his next move, Aang steps in and strikes his hands, asking if he ever considered his teammates' safety. Then Aang forms a water battle visor and kicks him back. The Luminous leader is stunned, demanding to know when Aang made that visor. Aang throws another jab while explaining that the lenses are made from thick water, bending light and reducing most of the flash. Since he absorbed water power, he can create lenses that weaken the brightness. And just like that, the light fades. Leyu sees the enemy leader stagger after taking a heavy loss from Aang, and she immediately rushes in to finish him. The leader suddenly realizes he can't move his hand. Ang must have dislocated his arm. Lei goes full savage mode, landing a brutal hit and dropping him hard. Meanwhile, Ang calmly helps the rest of his teammates, making the remaining fights go smoothly. After the battle, Lei gets the enemy team's attention and tells them their leader has fallen. If they still want to keep going, they can try. Naturally, they surrender. Joel says the result was expected. Worse for them, Aang hasn't even used his real power yet. The Sunflower Squad leader questions the Luminous leader, asking if they really lost because they lack strength. The boy insists they were only caught off guard, then warns that Sunflower will be next. As the Sunflower Squad enters the arena, their leader finds the Luminous Squad's excuses annoying. The team steps into position, and Tada Yashio announces that all weapons are now in training mode. The next battle begins. The Sunflower Squad charges toward Lei's team. Their leader tells them not to get shaken by the Luminous Squad's failure. They just need to follow their training, hold formation, and stay disciplined. Meanwhile, Lan decides to put everything into one punch. He slams the ground, creating a shockwave that cracks the earth. Aang sees the chaos and decides this is the perfect chance to use his own power. Roots burst from the ground, trapping the opposing team in place. The Sunflower members are shocked, wondering where that ability came from. Aang is pleased to see it working so well. The elemental powers he gained from demons have a lot of uses, and now he starts wondering just how many elements exist. Lei gestures for Lan to keep attacking and he charges forward, but the opponents dodge his blow. The Sunflower leader orders her team to move and regroup. She realizes their formation has been broken, but instantly Lei and Suju attack her together. The leader blocks and calls for backup, only to realize her teammates are already busy dealing with Aang and Lan. She sees Aang handling two of them by himself and remembers the Luminous Squad warning. Aang is the strongest member of Lei's squad, the one who can completely change a battle. Suju tells her to focus on the fight in front of her. The Sunflower leader still believes she has the advantage because she is an agility type, but that confidence gets checked real quick when Suju uses her own speed to attack, helping secure the win. Tada Yashio declares the match over. With Lei's squad winning all the team battles, it is now time for the solo duels. Since the warriors are allowed to choose their opponents, both the Sunflower and Luminous leaders want to fight Aang. Giat explains that solo duels are one-on-one, so they need to decide who will face him. But Aang, being Aang, tells them he'll fight both of them at the same time. As the final solo duel approaches, Aang knows this is the last fight, so he should at least take it seriously. His opponents are sure he is underestimating them. They promise he'll regret looking down on them. Tada Yashio explains that the rules are the same as before. The duel ends when one side gives up or can no longer continue. And with that, the fight begins. The boy and girl charge at Aang together. The Luminous leader attacks first, warning Aang not to underestimate them. Then he uses his flash technique again, shocking even his teammate because he activated it so early. A little earlier, before the duel started, the two leaders had discussed their plan. The boy told her that since they were fighting Aang together, they could not afford to lose. The chance to train in a B-level town was still within reach. He handed her a special battle visor, saying it would block most of his flash attack. Once he blinded Aang, she would strike immediately. The girl was amazed by the visor's value. The boy warned her not to underestimate Aang and reminded her that they needed to work together if they wanted to reach the B-level town. The flash would be her signal, and she could not miss it. Back in the fight, the Luminous leader prepares his attack and tells Aang there is no escape this time, because his flash is 5 times stronger than before. The light erupts so violently that Tada Yashio and the others struggle to see through it. The Sunflower leader notices he poured a huge amount of energy into the flash, even more than he used in the previous finals. Joel worries that using that much power means the core won't last long, so they have to end the fight quickly. The Sunflower leader knows Aang will only be blinded for a short time. To use that opening, she activates her speed and moves in for a fast strike. She finds him and prepares to attack, but Aang is already right in front of her. And the look on his face is way too calm. She freezes, feeling as if something terrifying is dragging her down into a cold ocean. Aang uses water to trap her, making her scream in pain. While her teammate is still busy creating blinding light, he hears her scream and asks why she is the one yelling. She panics, saying Aang attacked her and knocked off the visor, leaving her blind too. Their plan has completely collapsed. Then Aang uses different elements to attack both opponents at once, knocking them down. Giat watches the flashes and dust from outside the arena, hoping the warriors are controlling their power properly and not hurting each other. Concerned, he jumps into the arena to check, only to feel an ominous aura. After the massive burst of energy settles, the dust begins to clear, and there stands Aang, the only one still standing. His friends rush toward him. Lan is the first to praise him, asking how he stopped their attacks inside that blinding light and defeated 2 opponents at once. No one could see anything after the explosion of brightness. Aang explains that he simply grabbed their visor, making them blind too. But Lei silently feels there is more to it than that, even though she keeps her suspicion to herself. Giat walks over and announces that their squad has won the tournament. He congratulates them, clearly surprised by Aang's performance, especially how he countered and defeated both squad leaders. Aang humbly says his senior is exaggerating, but internally he is still the mightiest warrior. No tough opponent like that could truly make him lose. Honestly, he believes he could have won with battle experience alone, but using his powers made things easier. Giat then tells them they will receive their reward. The next day, they will travel through the underground tunnel to the nearest B-level city for a week of training. Everyone is thrilled by the news. The commander tells them to prepare and meet in the morning. As they leave, Lan says he heard there are 3 top warriors in those cities, and he is excited to meet them. The squad walks away smiling. Joel watches Aang and admits the kid is so strong that even they might struggle to beat him if he used all his power. Giat agrees, believing Aang will one day reach the peak of his career. Joel then adds that traveling through the underground tunnel is safer than going above ground. Tada Yashio reminds Giat to stay alert anyway, since no-fin demons sometimes appear down there. But Giat isn't worried. No amount of no-fin demons can threaten them. Giat is confident the 4 of them will be fine, even without his help. The underground tunnel was once a massive travel hub, full of movement and trade, but now it is nothing more than a ruined passage connecting cities. Meanwhile, somewhere deep inside one of those tunnels, a terrified warrior runs for his life, only to be caught and killed by a 2-fin demon. The demon looks down on humans, calling them weak and boring, then admits he has gotten lost in this place and has no idea how to get out. The next day, Giat and his juniors arrive at the underground passage. Suju is immediately excited, taking pictures while saying the place looks ancient. She asks when it was built, and Giat tells her it is even older than him. She notices how abandoned everything looks and wonders if people actually used to travel through here. Giat explains that after the Battle of Dawn, countless powerful warriors died, and the number of elites dropped drastically. Because of that, humanity lost the strength to expand territory or complete major missions. On top of that, they ran short on power crystals, which were essential for keeping these routes active. So the once great underground network was slowly abandoned. He adds that this system was built during the era of the greatest warrior. Suju is amazed that the tunnel was created during such a legendary time. What makes it even more interesting is that the hero who lived back then had the same name as Aang. Aang, of course, gets a little smug about that. Giat instantly gets annoyed, because to him, this kid only shares the great warrior's name and has no actual connection to him. He warns Aang not to joke about the mightiest warrior. After a little back and forth, Giat realizes he lost his temper for no real reason. He calms himself down and tells everyone to keep moving. As Aang studies the structure, memories start coming back. This place looks almost exactly like something he once suggested in his past life. And Giat is wrong about one important detail. This wasn't just some travel tunnel. It was a massive underground network that connected cities and served as the safest, fairest merchant route in the region. Aang never expected such an impressive system to be abandoned after his death. Out of curiosity, Lan asks about the energy crystals Giat mentioned, wondering if they are the same as the demon cores inside their chests. Giat explains that energy crystals are made by combining many demon cores together. A single core can enhance a warrior's power, but merging multiple cores is incredibly difficult. For a long time, every attempt failed until people finally created large energy crystals. Those crystals now power entire cities, almost like electricity. Most future operations involve group hunts to collect demon cores, which are then used to create more energy crystals for the hierarchy. Their destination is the B-level city of Pikadia, where they will learn more and receive their allocated energy crystals. Suju asks what would happen if a city's energy crystal ran out with no replacement. Giat says the city would stop functioning entirely. Everyone is shocked, and Giat explains further. Without power, normal life becomes impossible. Defense systems shut down, weapons stop working, and people would be forced to abandon their homes. It is one of the worst disasters a city can face. But he tells them there is no need to panic. Helios is not a large town, and their current energy crystal can still last another 3 months. They usually travel to Pikadia every month anyway, so this trip is just a precaution. There is no immediate danger. Then Giat warns them to mentally prepare themselves. A B-level city like Pikadia has not only 2 5-finned warriors, but 3, and one of them has a synchronization rate of 69%. Everyone is shocked. Everyone except Aang. Because in his head, he is still a 7-finned warrior who once had a 96% synchronization rate. Then Suju notices a button on the wall and reaches toward it, asking what it does. Aang catches the movement and stops her immediately. Giat scolds her for touching random things and is relieved Aang reacted in time. Suju argues that the button looked like it wanted to be pressed, so her hand just moved on its own. Giat explains that it is an emergency seal button. In the worst-case scenario, it completely shuts off that section of the tunnel. He points to the circular mechanism above them and says that pressing the button makes thick metal slabs drop from above and rise from below, sealing the area instantly. It exists to cut off access to other cities and keep the rest of the network safe. Aang realizes the most important function of the tunnel is still working, but then he senses killing intent approaching. His body tenses and he steps forward ready for battle. Giat notices Aang's expression, then smells blood a moment later, which shocks him. Aang sensed the enemy before he did. For now, Giat assumes Aang simply has sharp instincts and a sensitive nose. This is not the time to question it. He tells Lei Yu's squad to drop their bags and prepare for battle. As they move forward, they find blood on the ground. Giat wonders what is happening in Pikadia because the blood is coming from that direction. Soon, they encounter a severely injured warrior from Pikadia. The man asks if they are from Helios, then collapses. Giat wastes no time and demands to know what happened in Pikadia. The man says a demonic horde attacked the city, and Pikadia has already activated the evacuation alarm. Lei Yu quickly asks what that alarm means and whether they need to go help. Giat reveals the grim truth. A city only sounds that alarm when all its warriors are dead. Hearing this, Aang's anger flares. The city has fallen and countless lives may already be lost. Then sparks flash from the direction of Pikadia. A bolt of light shoots toward the injured warrior and drags him away. Aang feels regret for not reacting faster as a demon appears. The demon grabs the injured man's head and looks at everyone else. It says they all have to die because the dead should not speak. Then it kills the warrior. The demon calmly wonders who to kill first. It attacks Lan, but Giat blocks the strike. The demon can tell this new warrior is stronger than the last one. Meanwhile, Giat realizes they are facing a two-finned fire demon and its power is no joke. He knows he cannot afford to take another direct hit, especially while protecting 4 juniors. There is no time to overthink. He grabs everyone and leads them into a retreat. The demon chases them aggressively, closing the distance fast. Giat reaches an emergency button on the side wall, but the demon is already behind them, threatening to kill them all. Then Aang acts. He presses the button, pushing Giat and the others to safety, while staying behind with the demon and the dead warrior from Pikadia. Lei Yu tries to protest, but the gate closes before she can do anything. She is left staring at the sealed door, worried and helpless. Giat suddenly remembers how Aang insisted that he save the other 3, so he puts a little trust in the kid and tells everyone to stay calm. Aang gave them a chance to survive, and they cannot waste it. It is not safe to remain there, so Giat tells them to hurry and leave. Lan points out that the demon is two-finned, and even Aang would struggle against something like that. Suju agrees, saying they cannot just abandon him. Lei Yu also insists they break the door and save him. But Giat explains that the door is made from special material mixed with reinforced alloys, strong enough to withstand attacks from 3-finned demons. Breaking it is almost impossible. The ceiling is so thick they cannot even hear what is happening on the other side. There is nothing they can do from here. The 3 ask if there is any other way to save Aang. Giat admits that even if the other 2 captains helped, there would be no guarantee, but there is one possible option. He tells them to follow him through the side tunnels. One route leads to another city where they might be able to get help, so they run down the path Giat shows them. One of them thinks that choosing this route means turning their backs on whatever is happening behind that door. But still, all of them can only hope Aang survives. Meanwhile, the man himself is facing the demon alone. And now that no one is watching, he no longer needs to hide his real power. Seeing Aang's aura change, the two-finned demon asks if he is a demon or a human. Aang honestly isn't even sure anymore. But right now, he is more interested in the demon's fire element, because that power looks very useful and he wants it for himself. The two-finned demon becomes curious after sensing Aang's aura, wondering if this kid is somehow stronger than a one-finned demon. Aang quickly summons roots and attacks. The demon scoffs, saying if Aang is a one-finned wood type, then his fire element is the perfect counter. It unleashes a fierce blaze, burning through the roots while declaring that it will consume Aang's powers. The demon fires a blast of flame, but Aang dodges, making the attack slam into the sealed door instead. The demon mocks him, saying if he comes any closer, he will be burned alive and there is no escape. But Aang casually uses water to cancel the flames, then creates a powerful blast. The demon is stunned. Aang tells it that assuming he only had wood power was its first mistake. In an instant, Aang swings his sharp claws and grabs the demon's core. Then he rips the monster apart after taking it. Suddenly, more demons rush in from the darkness. Aang sees they are all no-finned demons and realizes they were drawn by the sound of the fight. He looks at the two-finned fire core, then shatters it and absorbs the fragments. After becoming a two-finned demon, he feels intense heat spreading through his body, like flames burning inside him. He understands there are endless no-finned demons ahead. So, remembering how to control fire, he creates a massive explosion of flames and wipes them out. Their screams become a tribute to the soldiers who died in this tunnel. As Aang keeps fighting, he eventually reaches an exit and realizes the demons may have come from there. Outside, the area is completely wrecked, with dead warriors scattered across the ground. Aang realizes the B-level city has been destroyed by a powerful demonic horde. The horrific scene, along with the remnants of the battle, tells him that a wood-type demon killed these warriors in a single strike, using an attack wide enough to affect a large area. That kind of power likely came from a three-finned demon, one strong enough to slaughter civilians. Giat had said this city had two three-finned core warriors, then Aang sees them, two warriors hanging from the roots. Aang uses his own roots to lower the two fallen warriors from above. He recognizes at once that they were powerful fighters, warriors worthy of respect, so he gently closes their eyes and tells them they can finally rest. The weight of the battlefield settles over him hard. Then a young boy suddenly calls out to him, mistaking Aang for a demon. The child trembles, asking if Aang is here to kill everyone too. In the boy's mind, Aang must be a high-level demon because only something terrifying could take human form like that. He says those warriors saved his life, and he can't stand watching demons defile their bodies. Hearing this, Aang realizes that even if he explains himself, the boy probably won't believe him. But before he can even think of what to say, a demon attacks the child with a devastating strike. Aang reacts instantly, intercepting the demon and cutting it down. Then he turns back to the boy and tells him not to move, promising to heal him. The boy looks up and asks one final question. Is Aang a demon or a human? And before Aang can answer, the child dies. That question stays with him. For a moment, Aang wonders what he really is now. But in the end, the answer doesn't change his path. Human or demon, his mission remains the same. Kill every demon. And so the massacre begins. Aang unleashes his new firepower, tearing through demons with destructive attacks one after another. As he fights, he realizes that if he concentrates flames on his back, he can boost his speed. If he spreads the fire like phosphorus powder, he can create explosions around him. The only disappointing part is that he still can't fly. Then another thought hits him. What would happen if he injected the flames directly into a demon's body? He throws one demon into the ground, and the moment the compressed flame explodes inside it, the body erupts violently. Aang realizes that if he squeezes the flames tightly and forces them into an enemy, demons can basically become living bombs. Elemental abilities have far more uses than he expected, and he decides to study them properly later. Just then, he sees the remaining demons running away. Aang chases them down with fire and wipes them out. Afterward, he remembers the others waiting for him. Giat was supposed to bring back an energy crystal, but Aang has no idea whether they are safe. Helios only has enough power left for 3 more months, and now the route to Pacadia is blocked. If they don't get a new energy crystal soon, the entire town will be in serious danger. So Aang needs to reach the city's crystal storage and recover an energy crystal himself. The problem is, he doesn't know where it is. He thinks carefully about the resources he has. Since an energy crystal is basically condensed demon core energy, it should give off a special signal. With his wood-type abilities, he may be able to scan the entire city for energy changes. So he spreads his roots through the ruins, searching for the crystal. Eventually, he finds a signal and rushes toward it. The source is underground and the energy feels faint, which tells him it must be heavily protected. He finds an entry point and descends into the lower levels. The underground area is far more complex than it looked from above. Inside the chamber, he sees a massive machine and realizes it must be part of the energy distribution network for a B-level city. The technology is impressive, so the energy crystal itself must be even more valuable. Then an automatic broadcast echoes through the room, ordering all warriors to protect the crystal with their lives. Aang heads toward the storage area, wondering how many defenders are still there. He uses his powers to check the surroundings and finds dead warriors scattered around. The demons have damaged the crystals too. Aang understands what happened. These warriors fought until their final breath to protect the crystals, but the demons didn't attack randomly. They targeted the energy supply directly. That means the demons are smarter than before. Someone planned this. Aang realizes he needs equipment and supplies from above ground if he wants to continue searching, but first, he must secure an energy crystal. If Giat and the others are in trouble, Helios could fall next. He needs to find another city within 3 months and bring back a crystal before it's too late. So he enters the battle preparation room, takes a monster truck, and sets out to find a new city. As he drives, he notices that the areas beyond the city are still unexplored. The fog grows thicker, and the ruined buildings along the road look like leftovers from a once lively world, now possibly infested with demons. He checks the map and follows the direction toward the next city. But someone is watching him from hiding. A rope is cut and massive logs come crashing down toward the truck. Aang dodges with precise timing and steps out of the vehicle. At first, he thinks it might be a demon trap, but it is. A girl points a gun at him and orders him to stop. She demands to know who he is, which hunting group he belongs to, and tells him to identify himself. Aang realizes the timing couldn't be worse. A hunting group showing up now makes everything complicated. He tries to explain that he isn't part of any hunting group, just a normal warrior passing through. The girl calls him a liar. City warriors wouldn't travel alone like this, so she assumes he must be a scout from the Silver Wolf hunting group. Aang is shocked and repeats that he has nothing to do with them. He tells her to calm down because this is too sudden to explain properly. But the girl throws a bottle near him, orders him to stay quiet, and says people like him are worse than demons. Then she asks if her comrades from the Searing Gun hunting group are still alive. Hearing that, Aang pieces things together. Members of the Searing Gun group must have been captured by the Silver Wolves. Still with a gun pointed at him, he has no easy way to prove he is a warrior or that he isn't part of any hunting group. Then Aang senses more people approaching. The girl raises her gun again and tells him not to move. Suddenly, a bullet hits her, and she collapses. Aang sees a group of men arriving on bikes and realizes someone just shot the girl. It seems there are still survivors from the Searing Guns nearby. One thug suggests taking the survivors back to their boss, so the group moves in to investigate. When they reach the girl, she assumes they're from the Silver Wolf group and tries to lift her injured hand. One of the men grabs her by the head and realizes she's a woman. He looks her over, surprised, then calls her cute and starts considering something disgusting. That is when Aang arrives. He kicks the man away. Aang says he normally doesn't like getting involved in fights between hunting groups, but the Silver Wolf members are clearly scum. And after everything he has seen today, he is not in the mood, so he gives them one chance to leave. The man sees the terrifying look in Aang's eyes and calls him a demon. Aang grabs the man's gun and crushes it in his hand, saying he doesn't like being threatened with firearms. The man tries to bargain, offering to let Aang go if he backs off. But Aang isn't the one who needs mercy. He sends roots crashing into the man, launching him far away. The thug demands to know whether Aang is a demon or a human. Aang crushes the gun even further and says that whether he is human or demon is none of his business. Then he kills him. Afterward, Aang treats the girl's wound. The bullet passed through muscle, so it needs healing. Once he finishes, she thanks him and realizes healing must be one of his abilities. She says she has heard four-finned warriors have incredible powers, and Aang seems unbelievably strong. Then she asks if he is a five-finned core warrior. Aang feels the power of a two-finned demon inside him. He knows he is stronger than a normal two-finned warrior, but for now he simply says he is a two-finned core warrior with some special abilities. The girl is impressed. She thanks him for saving her and apologizes for threatening him earlier. Aang forgives her quickly, saying it's normal to be cautious when traveling alone outside. He tells her he needs to reach the nearest city and asks if she knows which one is closest. She does, and she wants to come with him. Aang points out that they just met and don't even know each other's names, so he questions how she can trust him so quickly. He also asks what business she has there. The girl explains that the closest settlement is Jin Wei Town, a very small sea-level settlement. But a few days ago, it was taken over by the notorious Silver Wolf hunting group. The Searing Gun hunting group tried to liberate the town, but they failed, and all her comrades were killed. They almost had a chance, but they never expected the Silver Wolf captain to have already become a three-finned core warrior. Her captain was only a two-finned core warrior, so they were completely outmatched. In the end, she barely escaped. If freeing the town doesn't interfere with Aang's mission, she wants his help, and she is willing to risk her life to support him. Aang thinks back to his past life. Hunting groups existed back then too, but under his watch, he never saw anything like this. He wonders what the current leaders are doing, while groups like this are forcefully taking over towns. The girl adds that she heard the Silver Wolf hunting group took over a tower to seize energy crystals, but she doesn't know what they plan to do with them. That makes Aang furious. These scumbags are trying to steal a city's lifeline, so he tells her to lead the way. They have some trash to clean up. Later, as night begins to fall, she tells Aang they are almost there. They keep moving, and Aang suggests hiding the car before getting too close to the town. He doesn't remember this settlement from any map, and since the Silver Wolf hunting group has already taken over, they need to be careful. They decide to continue on foot and scout the area. Just as they are about to leave, the girl notices demons hiding behind them. Aang's roots instantly shoot out, grabbing the demons and putting them down for good. He decides to leave the bodies as they are, because killing too many demons and spilling fresh demon blood could attract even more of them. He tells her to keep moving and she agrees. As they head toward town, she thinks about how strong Aang is. For the first time, she feels a real chance that they might save both the town and her surviving friends. While hiding in the bushes, Aang notices something strange. There are no guards on the wall, and the gate is wide open. Then they see someone coming out of town with another person, desperately asking for help. A man from Silver Wolf grabs that person by the head and throws them to the ground. The girl snaps in anger and raises her gun toward the Silver Wolf members, but Aang stops her before she gives away their position. He tells her to stay hidden and promises he'll handle it. Then a giant hand suddenly appears, picks up the two dead men and drags them inside the town. That changes everything. The demon isn't just nearby, it's working with the Silver Wolf group. Aang and the girl both realize their original plan won't work anymore. If a demon is involved, they need to move fast, rush in, and save as many people as possible. Aang instantly takes out the 2 Silver Wolf members guarding the gate and enters the town. The girl follows, saying she wants to help. But when she sees the 2 Silver Wolf members on the ground, she freezes, wondering what Aang did to them because their bodies look like they've been dead for days. The town is filled with Silver Wolf members, and Aang cuts through them one by one. But he quickly realizes these aren't living people anymore. They're corpses controlled by demonic power, so he stops holding back. He kills them all, noticing black strings connected to their bodies. Demons usually act alone, which means if he follows the strings, he can find the main body controlling them. Aang tells the girl he'll save the father and son they saw at the gate, while she looks for any other survivors. She agrees. Aang follows the trail until he reaches a gate. He strikes it open but feels frustrated by how slow he still is. Inside, a demon sits on a throne, declaring that everything in this town, dead or alive, belongs to him. He only kept the father and son alive for a game, but they crossed the line by trying to escape. The demon invites Aang closer, telling him to come see him properly. Aang notices 3 energy crystals behind the demon, so that's it. The Silver Wolf group came here for the crystals and their actions attracted this monster. But one thing still bothers him. Why would a demon want energy crystals? The demon stares at Aang and asks whether he is human or demon. At the same time, Aang realizes what kind of enemy this is. A rare purple core demon with special abilities. Aang tells the demon he must have killed all the Silver Wolf members, including their leader, a 3-fin core warrior who probably couldn't resist this thing's control powers. The demon kicks someone toward Aang, and it isn't just anyone, it's the Silver Wolf leader himself, now zombified. Aang blocks the undead warrior's attack, and suddenly more ghouls appear around him. He sees that not only the Silver Wolf members, but even the town's original warriors have been turned into puppets. There are a lot of them, and the demon welcomes Aang to his new group like this is some messed up party invitation. Aang studies the 3-fin demon while standing in his 2-finned form. If this were a normal 3-fin demon, it would be a serious problem. But this one is purple core, weaker in direct combat and relying on psychic control to dominate the battlefield. So Aang gathers flames around his fist and destroys the puppets in an instant. The demon is impressed, realizing Aang is no ordinary human. It commands its army to attack, but Aang tells it there's no point. He already burned their cores. The demon gets irritated, complaining that it worked hard to collect them. Aang is glad because those poor warriors are finally free from its control. With no cores left to manipulate, the demon's fighting strength drops heavily. Aang lunges forward and strikes. After a barrage of punches, he prepares the final blow straight for the demon's core. But just as he attacks, the demon places the child from earlier directly in his path. Aang stops. That hesitation leaves him wide open, and the demon lands a direct hit into his stomach. The demon then reveals that it doesn't only control cores, it also possesses sharp gold element abilities. Aang realizes this is metal power. The wound is deep, so he quickly uses recovery magic on himself. The demon admits the fight may be harder than expected, so it decides to use something it worked hard to obtain. It orders a man to bring an item. The demon regrets using its precious father-son pair this early, but the man arrives with a green liquid and the demon drinks it. Aang doesn't know what the liquid is, but his instincts scream danger. There's no time to fully heal. Despite the pain in his abdomen, he charges in and tries to stop the demon. But as he jumps forward, a shield appears and throws him back. Aang wonders where the demon got such a massive surge of power. It looks like the demon is forcibly drawing energy from the crystal. But that should be impossible. Humans condensed crystal energy so intensely that extracting it carelessly would make the crystal explode. Aang proved that theory himself in his past life. Yet the power inside the demon is wild and unstable, stopping just before the breaking point. Aang realizes the green drug must be controlling the process. And one thing is certain, this isn't something demons created on their own. The demon begins evolving, glowing as it uses the crystal's power to force itself into a 4-finned form. Aang knows this just got ugly. The demon grows smug and attacks with a thrust. Aang sees that it now has the abilities of a 4-finned demon. He tries to dodge, but the demon moves too fast and kicks him down. The demon mocks him, explaining that every fin gained through evolution creates a massive power gap. In other words, Aang stands no chance. At least that's what the bastard thinks. Then the demon offers Aang a choice: become his core. But just as it prepares to attack, purple circles suddenly appear around them. A creepy woman emerges from the circles, grabs the demon's head, and tells it not to interfere with her plan. Before the cocky demon can even process what is happening, she compresses and absorbs it. Aang feels a terrifying pressure from her, the same kind of pressure he has felt before. The demon inside him gives off that same aura. That is how he knows exactly what this feeling is. She mocks him for delaying the awakening of the great Crimson King. She finds humans irritating, especially because they are so weak. That weakness is the reason Aang is evolving so slowly. Using her power, she lifts Aang into the air, then forces a crystal into him, trying to evolve him straight into a four-finned form. Aang immediately knows this is bad. Skipping straight to four fins will make his chest explode. Pain tears through him. When his body fails to handle the four-finned core, the demon asks if he is truly so weak that he cannot absorb that level of energy. Light bursts from Aang's body as he struggles, telling the demon he is going to explode and needs help. She activates an 8-panel space lock around him and tells him to endure. Then Crimson speaks through Aang, revealing that she has disturbed his slumber. The female demon recognizes the voice instantly. Crimson asks if she has forgotten what he told her. He shatters the crystal barrier and takes over Aang's body, scolding her for interfering with Aang's evolution path. The moment she realizes it is truly Crimson, she hugs him, overjoyed that he has finally appeared. Crimson says it has been a long time. She explains that she has been watching humans from the shadows, and when she saw Aang struggling against the newly evolved four-finned demon, she became worried. If his vessel died, their combined strength would weaken, and recovering would require too much training. Crimson tells her that humans are different from demons. They are weak, yes, but also mysterious. Aang had only recently absorbed a two-finned demon's power, yet she forced him to skip the three-finned stage and injected a four-finned core into him. His body could not handle that. The leaked energy is the only reason Crimson woke up temporarily. He orders her not to interfere with Aang's evolution again. Aang needs to grow slowly if he is to become the perfect vessel. She agrees. Then she tells Crimson that during his absence while he faked his death, the other four kings only argued among themselves and never reunited, just as Crimson predicted. The balance of power remained. Crimson remembers how the other kings feared his strength and joined forces to eliminate him. Yet even without him, they kept fighting each other instead of improving themselves. They have probably forgotten their original mission. He asks if they suspect her. She says even if they do, they don't have enough energy to investigate what happened that day, so she is safe. Her real concern is him. She only wants to welcome him back in his strongest form. Crimson assures her it is only a matter of time. She forced his weak vessel into a four-finned state, but now Aang must adjust and stabilize that power. Crimson advises her not to contact Aang directly because any unwanted attention could ruin their plans. She admits she missed him and wanted to see him, even if only through his vessel. Then the girl who had been with Aang arrives. She sees the 8-finned demon and wonders what it is doing there. The female demon realizes she forgot to clear the area first. Crimson immediately attacks the girl, trying to kill her. At that moment, Aang's dormant consciousness rises when he hears the girl call him a demon. When Aang finally returns to normal, he sees the girl has been killed by Crimson. Rage consumes him. A red beam blasts into the sky and Aang transforms into his four-finned form. Memories of the girl begin surfacing. He remembers her talking about her dream of going to Dawn City and becoming a florist because she loved flowers. Later, Aang gives her a proper cremation and burns the entire town with her. He feels the cruelty of this world pressing down on him. Everything has become so cold, so merciless. Maybe if more beautiful flowers existed, some warmth could return. Aang struggles to forgive himself. In his heart, this happened because he failed to control the demonic power inside him. He hopes the fire protects her body from demons and wishes her peace. Afterward, Aang decides he does not want to rely on his four-fin powers. His mind is too clouded and too many things are happening at once. He is confused about the relationship between Crimson and the 8-fin demon, especially why she forced him to skip the 3-fin stage and jump straight to 4 fins. What is their real goal? And more importantly, how did a 3-fin demon evolve like that on its own? That kind of transformation is not something a demon can do alone. So who created that power? Such advanced engineering could only come from a major city or a top organization. Aang suspects it may have been developed in Dawn City, which means he needs to reach a big city as soon as possible. He decides to contact Giat and let him know he is safe. He also wonders how everyone else is doing. Then Aang starts driving the monster truck again, hoping his friends escape the tunnels and reach the city safely. Ahead of him lies an 11 city called Pisha. So Aang decides he'll send a message from there. Meanwhile, in Bryan City, Giat and the other 3 arrive safely and meet Koda, a 5-finned warrior and the city's battle commander. After hearing their report, Koda apologizes but says he cannot send a full rescue team for one person. The person they're talking about is Aang. From Koda's point of view, the situation is already hopeless. They have just learned that B-level Picadia City was destroyed by a high-level demonic horde, so the chances of Aang still being alive are almost zero. Giat pushes back, insisting that Aang has unusual talent and may have survived against the odds. Koda admits Bryan City has many young warriors with special talents too, but even they wouldn't survive a horde that powerful. Still, he makes one thing clear: in this apocalypse, they should never abandon human lives completely. Even if they can't send a rescue squad, they can at least dispatch warriors to scout the situation. Giat thanks him for the help. Koda then stands up and ends the meeting, saying he has other matters to handle. As he walks out, he wonders whether the high-level demonic horde that destroyed Picadia will affect the Grand Demon Hunt tournament in Dawn City. He mentions that Helios is only a sea-level settlement, but before leaving, he tells Giat that everything will be fine and invites them to stay in Bryan City for a few days to learn more about the situation. He explains that the tournament is hosted by the only S-level city, and only cities ranked B-level or higher can officially participate. Helios does not qualify yet, but Giat and his companions might still benefit from learning about it. Koda offers them a chance to explore the office and the city. They all thank him sincerely. After Koda leaves, Suju asks Giat about the Grand Demon Hunt tournament. Giat explains that it is an event held only in Dawn City, where warriors hunt demons of different levels to find and select new powerful fighters. Participants can also win special rewards from Dawn City. The event happens regularly, and every warrior dreams of competing, but only B-level cities and above are allowed to join. Giat believes they may get a chance to participate someday. Lan says Aang would definitely be interested in a tournament like that. He hopes Aang survived and is waiting for the demon horde to weaken. No one expected their first mission to turn into something this brutal, and the fact that Aang risked himself to save them still feels insane. For now, all they can do is wait for the scouts' report. Giat has already sent a message to Helios through Bryan City's communication tower. For the next few days, he plans to stay in Bryan City and learn as much as possible. There are many skilled warriors here, and all they can do is believe Aang is still alive. Meanwhile, in Pisha, Aang is inside a reception room with Paris. Paris confirms his report that Picadia City was destroyed by a demonic horde. She also helped him send a message to Helios about his squad's condition and believes a response should arrive soon. However, she apologizes because she cannot give him an energy crystal. Her city is not responsible for distributing them. Crystal allocation is handled by higher-level cities. Since Picadia, the higher-level city connected to Helios, was wiped out, Aang must request a new allocation from Dawn City. Aang did not expect the energy crystal system to be this annoying. Since he is already nearby, he decides he may as well inspect the city and investigate the strange demonic items, but his current identity could make entering Dawn City difficult. He thanks Paris and asks if he can enter Dawn City on behalf of Helios. Paris refuses, explaining that only a captain can officially represent Helios. Without that rank, Aang does not have the required access. She also cannot randomly appoint him as the representative. Aang considers returning to Helios to get an official appointment, but that sounds like a massive hassle. Then Paris mentions another way. A high-level city official can vouch for him, someone like herself. When Aang asks if she is offering to do that, Paris says she can, but not for free. If he joins the Grand Demon Hunt tournament as an external recruit, she wants him to join her squad and serve as the vanguard, gathering information during the competition. She cannot promise he will survive. Aang remembers exactly what the vanguard role means. It is dangerous, which explains why none of her actual participants want the job. After thinking it over, he accepts. To him, the Grand Demon Hunt tournament feels familiar, because it is something he originally started in his past life. Paris takes him to the nano-equipment storage and admits she made him the vanguard because they are desperate. Right now, no city wants to send important members into that role since too many have died over the past few years. She had already promised to help him get the equipment he needs, so she lets him choose anything from storage. Aang agrees and starts looking around. Internally, Paris wonders what his true potential really is. Since his core-level insignia is broken, she cannot detect his current strength. Since he came from a sea-level town, he is probably only a two-finned core warrior. But his confidence feels strange. Maybe he has some hidden trick. Aang eventually picks a nano wing that can transform into a great sword. He thinks his old combat knife was good for mobility, but it lacked raw damage. Paris tells him to wait because that equipment is meant for three-finned warriors. If he uses it with his current strength, it could become unstable and injure him, but Aang equips it anyway. Then he effortlessly rotates the great sword and says it feels solid. Paris is stunned. She wonders how he can control it so smoothly, then assumes he may have a rare talent for handling nano wings. She has heard of special warriors who can use high-level equipment without issue. Aang then asks if there is a live combat arena nearby. Eventually, they reach the main entrance, where Paris promises to gather all the equipment he needs. She asks why he wants to visit the live combat arena. Aang says he wants to test the new nano wing on demons and warm up. Paris asks if he really plans to go alone, since one-fin demons sometimes appear there even though the arena is supposed to be safe. She offers to go with him. Aang says he can handle a one-fin demon by himself. His confidence and bravery are rare, so Paris tells him to be careful. She also mentions she has to train some four-finned warriors and wishes more of them had Aang's confidence, because that would make her job way easier. With that, they part ways. Of course, Aang deliberately didn't let her come along. He isn't just testing the new weapon. He wants to see what he can do with his four-fin transformation. He arrives at a ruined zone and sees the area has been claimed with the fog already cleared. Then he hears a demon's voice. A demon appears and rushes at him. Aang dodges and swings the great sword, landing a powerful slash. He immediately feels that this weapon suits him much better. More demons begin gathering, and Aang worries they may stop appearing once daytime comes. For now, though, this is perfect. He can learn the weapon, release some frustration, and organize his thoughts. So he starts cutting them down one by one. Every swing sends demon blood flying. Limbs are severed, bodies fall, and his movements become almost like a dance, as if he was born to kill demons. He does not use wood, water, fire, or metal, just pure swordwork. Every strike helps his weak body rebuild the muscle memory his mind never lost. The enemies are only no-fin demons, so they are no match for his skill. The only sound left is their screaming, and Aang loses track of how long he has been fighting. Finally, he cuts down the last demon of the wave and realizes his body has changed because of the demonic power inside him. He is much stronger than when he first reincarnated, though there are still flaws he needs to fix. He is honestly surprised that he gets out of breath after only a few proper swings. Then stronger demons appear, drawn in by his presence. One-fin demons. One is a wood type while the other seems to be a fire type. Aang recognizes them as the one-fin demons he expected. One demon notices Aang isn't afraid and wonders if his lack of fear is just his way of showing it. It attacks, but Aang moves faster, strikes it with a rock, and then drives his sword into it. He notes that metal works well against fire. Now he decides to test his four-fin powers. The other demon, clearly frightened, asks if he is really human. Aang remembers that his purple four-fin power allows him to control cores. After killing the demon, he uses a purple thread to control its body. The other demons freeze in shock as Aang manipulates one of their own right in front of them. As evening approaches, Paris realizes Aang still hasn't returned. A man tells her that sunset is almost here, and because of the demonic horde at Picadia, all gates, including the side gates, will close soon. Paris asks for a report on recent demon levels. The man says the numbers are getting worse. Not only are more one-fin demons appearing, but two-finned, three-finned, and even four-finned demons have been spotted. Paris worries that Aang may have been caught by demons. She needs him to survive, especially since she just submitted the participant list. If something happens now, it will cause even more trouble. She decides to look for him at the live combat arena and tells the man she will return before the gates close. He agrees. As she rushes out, Paris blames herself for being careless. Aang is only a normal warrior from a sea-level town, and even though he asked to go alone, she feels she should never have let him enter the live combat arena by himself. Usually, only no-fin demons appear there, though a five-fin demon did show up years ago. If Aang died there, she would be responsible, and as a five-finned warrior, that would be a disgrace. She worries about how she would explain it to the soldiers from Helios and hopes Aang is still alive. When Paris reaches the arena, she senses a powerful demonic aura and smells death in the air. That is never a good sign. There are many demons inside, including one-finned, two-finned, and even three-finned demons. The higher-level demons make her uneasy because this is not normal. Suddenly, a demon charges at her, recognizing her as a five-finned warrior. Paris kicks it with brutal force, creating a massive blast, but something still feels wrong. She senses an unusual presence. Then she sees the demons gathering together, which makes no sense. Demons normally don't group up like this. She knows she has to move fast before the gates close. Paris prepares to fight, noticing that these demons look like mindless corpses and smell rotten. They only come from the front, which makes them easier to strike. Paris decides to use her bowstring slash to cut through the demons. After she takes down several of them, even more begin pouring in, and she starts wondering just how many are hiding in this place. That is when Aang suddenly appears behind her and asks why she came here. Startled, Paris swings her sword at him by reflex, but Aang stops the blade and quickly tells her it's him. Paris is stunned. She asks if he is okay, barely believing he blocked her attack so easily. That strike was fast and heavy, and even a four-finned warrior would struggle to stop it like that. She starts questioning whether this boy is really from a sea-level town. Aang compliments her strength, saying she really is a good five-finned warrior. He admits the impact made his hand go numb, then explains that he was focused on something and lost track of time. He apologizes for being late. Paris tells him it's fine as long as he is alive, but now they have to deal with these abnormal demons. She warns him that there are three-finned demons here which could be dangerous for him, so he should stay back. Aang asks if she means all the demons around them. Then he snaps his fingers. Every demon collapses at once. While Aang casually prepares to head back to the city, Paris freezes in complete disbelief. She grabs his collar and demands to know how he did that, asking if he is controlling the demons. She also notices that he has a red core and asks what his actual abilities are. Aang keeps it vague, saying they are only working together and he doesn't need to explain everything. He admits he can slightly control dead demons, but nothing more. To him, it is normal for warriors to keep secret abilities hidden, especially in an apocalypse where one surprise can decide life or death. Paris still can't believe it. Controlling demons is rare, even among five-finned warriors. Aang then says they will leave for Dawn City the next day, because he needs to settle the energy crystal distribution for Helios as quickly as possible. As they walk away, Paris silently raises her expectations for Aang in the Grand Demon Hunt tournament, completely unaware that inside the live combat arena, he has left countless demon corpses scattered everywhere. Later, they arrive at the gate of Dawn City. Paris tells everyone to do their best and not embarrass the city. Aang looks at the massive city in front of him and feels certain this is the same place he once managed in his past life. It may have been renamed after his death, since the battlefield itself became known as the Battle of Dawn. The city is even more impressive than before, and Aang wonders how long it will be before he can truly return. He also wonders if he might meet the 6 great heroes, the strongest team he personally trained. He wants to know how they survived after the Battle of Dawn and whether they would believe him if he told them the truth. Paris approaches and asks if he is nervous because it is his first time visiting Dawn City. She says it is too early to be shocked because they haven't even entered yet. Dawn City is humanity's only S-level city, the center of human strength. Not everyone gets the chance to see it, and some people spend their whole lives without ever reaching these walls. Aang thinks Paris, as a five-finned warrior, might know something important, so he asks if she knows what happened to the 6 great heroes after the Battle of Dawn. Paris pauses, finding the question strange, then asks if he means the old 6 heroes. Aang is confused. He explains that the 6 great heroes are the same 6 people he is asking about, the strongest team led by the king known as the mightiest warrior, the man who shared his name. Paris is surprised he does not know. She tells him everyone understands that the new 6 heroes dislike any mention of the old 6 heroes and warns him not to bring them up inside the city. The king has changed. The dynasty has changed. The current mightiest warrior is the new king, and the Aang he is talking about is now called the old king. She warns him again, do not speak about these things in Dawn City. Aang wonders what happened to the old 6 heroes. Paris raises her voice, asking if he heard a single thing she just said. People nearby start looking at them. She admits she never knew why he chose the name Aang, maybe because he admired the old king, but she never asked. Still, he must not mention the old 6 heroes or the old king inside the city. Maybe people in a sea-level town still admire him, but that is no longer true here, especially after the old king's so-called sacrifice. No one believes in it anymore. She tells him to remember her warning as they enter. Aang feels something heavy settle in his chest. No one recognizes him, no one believes in his sacrifice. He wonders what happened after his death. He led the 6 great heroes and every warrior into a desperate battle against the demons. Then he went alone to the ancient king monument to uncover the demons' secrets. Did everything he did mean nothing? Did his death mean nothing? He enters Dawn City and realizes they are in the city center. The city has been upgraded, but it is still Dawn City. It is far larger than an ordinary city, with countless urban clusters and buildings in different styles. Forests, lakes, seas, and mountains exist inside its borders, making the whole place feel like a world of its own. Massive walls surround the city, and it is divided into 7 great districts. 6 belong to the 6 heroes, while the central district belongs to the king. Aang notices many buildings have changed, but the layout remains the same and even the air feels familiar. Then he sees his own statue. The face is hidden by cloth. Paris confirms it is the statue of the old king Aang admires. It has stood there for decades and was made while the old king was still alive. He was once very popular, but Paris refuses to say more. She adds that the statue will soon be torn down and replaced with one of the new king. For the first time, she seems to feel a little pity for the old king. At the base of the statue, one of the old heroes is paying tribute to her fallen companion. Her name is Lena, the strongest 7-finned recovery-type warrior. Aang's mind almost crashes on the spot. He remembers her clearly. She was one of his allies. Without thinking, he calls out her name and sees her placing flowers at the statue's base. Then a man approaches and strikes Lena, telling her not to honor the old hero, especially when she herself is one of the old 6 heroes. The flowers fall from her hands. Aang remembers that even though Lena was a healer, she had a terrifying temper, so he expects the situation to explode instantly. But instead, Lena simply apologizes in a quiet, timid voice. More warriors gather around her. One of them says he does not care who she used to be. Right now, she is nothing but a self-proclaimed old hero who lost the right to own cores and can no longer be called a warrior. If not for the new king's decree allowing them to remain, she would have been thrown out of Dawn City to survive on her own. He blames the old king and his arrogance for their current situation, saying the statue should have been destroyed long ago. Then he insults it as useless trash taking up space. Lena finally slaps him. The man tries to strike back, but Aang steps in with his sword and blocks him, demanding to know how he dares. The other men get angry and draw their guns, asking if Aang is looking for trouble. They tell him to put down the sword or they will shoot. To Aang, these people are no different from the rotten hunting groups outside the city, warriors with power but no honor. Before everything explodes into a full fight, Paris steps in and stops them. She calls it a misunderstanding and explains that these are warriors from the level city of Picadia, here to join the Grand Demon Hunt tournament. Then she questions whether they are really trying to start a fight with warriors from another city. She also tells Aang to put his sword away since he is representing Picadia. Aang sheathes his weapon. The warriors tell him to leave and avoid fighting people from other cities. If the law enforcement captain hears about this, things will get ugly. One of them tells Aang to quietly go to his hotel if he is here for the tournament, saying he should consider himself lucky for getting away this easily. Then the noisy group walks off. Lena turns to Aang and asks if he knows her. For a moment he considers telling her the truth, that the mightiest warrior Aang has returned, but if he is careless, it could create even more problems. Paris steps in and tells Lena that Aang has a reputation for being a troublemaker. Aang plays along and admits he is definitely a troublemaker, even his name is troublesome. Lena begins to leave, agreeing that it really is a troublesome name, the kind of name that brings headaches. Paris gets irritated. Not only did Lena brush Aang off, she also called him a headache. But Aang isn't bothered. He believes there will be a better time to explain everything to Lena, and he is sure she has plenty to tell him as well. The next day, during the Grand Demon Hunt parade, Paris's team joins the celebration. Someone in the crowd notices a new face among them. Paris tells Aang that after the tournament, she will help him contact the person responsible for energy crystal distribution. Aang is glad she remembered and thanks her. He tells her not to worry, promising she will not be disappointed by his performance. Paris hopes so too, then reminds him to be careful and not die. In the crowd, Aang sees Lena and gives her a smile, but she only looks at him with timid eyes before avoiding eye contact. As for the tournament itself, Dawn City has forest tournament grounds, an enormous artificial forest built specifically for the Grand Demon Hunt tournament. It is practically a city inside the city, which is somehow normal in the monstrous scale of Dawn City. They stop at a designated point, and Paris tells Aang and the 5 warriors that since she is not a participant, she can only escort them this far. Once they enter, their skills will be tested. She tells them to bring glory to Picadia and bravely fight the demons. Everyone answers with a powerful roar, while Aang quietly wonders if all the yelling is really necessary. Then a broadcast announces that all squads must enter the grounds in order, with the vanguards heading to the judges' area first. Aang realizes the tournament has officially begun. As he steps inside, he can't help but notice how much the Grand Demon Hunt tournament has grown over the years. What used to be a small event in the city has turned into a massive spectacle, and for him, the whole place feels painfully nostalgic. The broadcaster welcomes the warriors of Picadia, especially since they have brought their own vanguard to gather information. The Picadia warriors bow to Aang, wishing their friendship lasts forever. One girl tells him to gather as much information as possible and promises to remember his sacrifice. Another boy even asks for one more handshake. Aang tells them to calm down because he is not dead yet, and he has no plans of dying either. He can tell they all understand how dangerous the vanguard role is. Their serious expressions make it look like they're sending him off to his funeral. To them, being chosen as vanguard probably means there is almost no chance of coming back alive. Honestly, their lifeless faces are kind of depressing. Then a lady addresses all the vanguards from the different squads. She explains that their mission is filled with unknown dangers, and praises their courage for accepting such a risky role. Their task is to enter the tournament grounds, gather as much information about the demons as possible for their squads, and stay alert because they may encounter demons of unknown levels. Aang notices that all the participating vanguards seem to be Tier 2 core warriors. So this tournament is basically a talent showcase, meant to reveal which city has the strongest young generation. Naturally, higher-level warriors are not allowed to participate. Paris understands that Aang's real abilities are far above ordinary Tier 2 core warriors, but that actually works in his favor. As long as he keeps his power hidden, no one will guess what he truly is. Then the lady asks the crowd to welcome a special guest with a loud cheer. The highest-ranking judge of the tournament appears, one of the 6 great warriors, Dylan, the strongest recovery-type warrior. The audience erupts for Dylan Fan. Aang looks at him carefully and immediately notices something extraordinary. Dylan has a dual-core setup. That is something Aang only imagined in his past life. 2 cores could grant double the power, and if the synchronization rate is high enough, the result would be monstrous. A warrior's strength comes from the power supplied by the core, and a higher sync rate lets them draw out more of that potential. But the higher the sync rate, the more the body must endure demonic power. If compatibility is low or the body is too weak, the sync rate stays limited. In Aang's time, humans could only create single-core grafting equipment. But now the new 6 heroes apparently use dual-core grafting systems, making them far stronger than expected. Everyone bows to Dylan, and the Horned Warrior thanks him for attending. Aang feels uneasy. After seeing what happened to the old 6 heroes, Dylan's presence only makes that feeling worse. Something about him doesn't sit right. Dylan addresses the crowd, praising the warriors for their bravery despite the risks. He honors their courage and gives each of them a Tier 3 core as a memento, praying for their safe return. The warriors bow again and thank him repeatedly. One warrior tells Aang to stop being rude and bow properly. Aang apologizes, claiming his back hurts and bending too much might make it worse. Dylan smiles at him, and that smile makes Aang feel deeply uncomfortable. He wonders why this man is looking at him like that. The announcer then declares that Dylan, one of the 6 heroes, will demonstrate a hunt against a Tier 4 demon. She wishes everyone luck in the Grand Demon Hunt Tournament and welcomes Dylan to the stage. The crowd cheers, saying they've been waiting for this. The announcer tells all vanguards to follow her and watch from the side, leaving the stage to Dylan. Aang realizes the demonstration is clearly meant to display the power and prestige of the new 6 heroes. Capturing and containing a 4-finned demon is already difficult, which means Dawn City's strength has grown tremendously. Dylan asks the announcer if she is a new referee. She happily says yes and tells him it is an honor to meet him. Then Dylan leans close and quietly says they need to replace her immediately. He finds the phrase "new 6 heroes" irritating. If she were a Dawn City warrior, he says he might have accidentally broken her bones. To him, there are no new heroes or old heroes. There are only heroes who represent the city. The audience, however, sees Dylan lowering his head to speak gently to her and thinks he is showing a sweet side. Then he dismisses her, and the terrified referee quickly runs away. A broadcast microphone appears near Dylan's head. He asks for permission to represent the 6 heroes and perform the 4-finned demon hunt. He wishes everyone success in the tournament and hopes his demonstration can serve as an example for the brave vanguards. Then a box rises from the ground. The broadcaster emphasizes how terrifying this demon is, explaining that 4-finned warriors had to be sent just to capture it. The box opens and a rare, violent demon emerges, dangerous even among 4-finned demons. A red core metal element demon. The demon looks around, confused. It doesn't know what the humans are planning, but it realizes they have trapped it inside an arena full of spectators. Furious, it rushes toward the audience, only to slam into a protective barrier. The demon falls back and Dylan asks if it finally understands the situation. He explains that the arena's protective barrier is extremely strong, created by one of the 6 heroes, known as the strongest psychic-type warrior. The audience realizes the barrier is invisible. Dylan then tells the demon to die for his performance. The demon warns him not to come closer and slashes at him. Dylan blocks with his shield and says the demon is just a brute with no manners. The demon tries to punch through the shield, but the barrier holds, forcing it to absorb the force of Dylan's counterattack instead. Dylan tells the demon it has no right to fight back. The demon is confused. How can a green core withstand brute force like this? Green cores are supposed to specialize in healing and regeneration, not raw power. To prove its point, the demon throws another punch. But Dylan uses green ropes to bind it and says it is his job to correct the demon's misunderstanding. He introduces himself as a green core warrior with dual cores. The demon tries to reveal something about that mysterious power, but Dylan tells it to shut up. Then he strikes. The demon explodes, blood spilling across the arena. Dylan stands safely behind his shield and announces that this is the beginning of the Grand Demon Hunt Tournament. Everyone is ordered to begin. Aang is genuinely impressed by Dylan's strength. He realizes dual cores don't simply double a warrior's power. When combined properly, their strength multiplies into something far beyond a single core. The new 6 heroes are more powerful than he expected, which makes him wonder how terrifying the new king must be. Even though Aang acknowledges their strength, he still cannot forget how Lena was treated. The broadcaster thanks Dylan and calls the vanguards back onto the stage. As expected, Dylan is wildly popular and the vanguards bow respectfully. Everyone except Aang. Dylan notices and asks whether the kid dislikes him or if he is hiding hostility. Aang says it is probably a misunderstanding. He explains that before going on stage, he usually acts hostile to focus himself. After all, being a vanguard is not easy. Dylan finds him interesting and says he will watch Aang closely. He tells him not to disappoint him. Aang finds the whole thing almost funny. Back when he was ripping demons apart in his past life, this guy wasn't even born yet. The broadcaster then gathers the vanguards to explain the rules. The first task is to enter the forest and scout the area. Their main goal is to find the best route for their squad based on its strength. Each squad must defeat demons within a set time to earn points. The tournament grounds contain not only no-fin demons, but also 1-finned, 2-finned, and 3-finned demons spread throughout the forest. Since the area is huge, the vanguards must carefully choose the safest and most efficient path. The broadcaster reminds them this is not their home territory, so they need to be extremely careful. They must work alone to avoid attracting demons. One vanguard wonders if that warning is even necessary, asking who would risk their life just to provoke a demon. Another agrees, saying that even no-finned and 1-finned demons still carry danger. A third adds that fighting recklessly might attract more demons. The fourth reminds everyone to take care of themselves, because the survival rate for vanguards in this tournament is below 36%. Aang looks at these Tier 2 core warriors and understands why the odds are low. They are not especially strong. He thinks about synchronization rates and how much self-confidence matters. These young warriors don't carry the same responsibility as captains, so they seem immature compared to one-finned warriors like Giat's group. The warriors from resource-poor towns had to sharpen their skills through life-or-death battles to protect their homes. These vanguards, meanwhile, are already starting to panic. Then the broadcaster announces the tournament's special rule, just like every year. A level 4 demon has been sealed inside a container somewhere in the tournament grounds. If a squad believes they are strong enough, they may attempt to hunt it. If they successfully defeat the 4-fin demon, the tournament ends immediately and their squad becomes the winner. Aang notices this rule has remained the same as in past years. A man says everyone knows the 4-fin demon gives the most points, but no one dares to take that risk. When the tournament begins, all the other vanguards leave. Except Aang. He rushes straight toward the 4-fin demon because that has been his goal from the start. As Aang moves deeper inside, he notices most of the vanguards are sticking together. The other teams clearly have no intention of chasing the 4-fin demon, even though defeating it would instantly secure victory. The young warriors know the reward is massive, but fear is still holding them back. Dylan watches the vanguards from above and asks the woman beside him for information. She asks which warrior he means, and Dylan describes the one with a patch of white hair. Casually walking through the forest like this is a sightseeing trip. The woman checks the report and tells him the warrior is registered under Pikadia as a 3-finned core warrior. Dylan notes that the tournament allows warriors up to 3 fins to enter, but very few 3-finned warriors actually participate because the risks are high and the rewards are not worth dying over. If this boy is really 3-finned, then he is at least one level above most of the other participants, which may explain his arrogance. Then Dylan asks for his name. The woman hesitates before reading it out. Aang. The moment Dylan hears that name, disgust flashes across his face. His mood changes instantly, and he demands that she repeat herself. She quickly explains that she only read the name from the report and shows him the document. Dylan stares at it coldly, saying people with that name deserve nothing but death. Meanwhile, the vanguards push deeper into the forest, and several of them begin encountering demons. The broadcaster announces that demons have been spotted and that the vanguards are marking their locations. This zone will likely become a gathering point for no-fin demons. As the others rush toward the next area, Aang walks calmly through the forest. Marking locations, planning routes, and finding the safest path forward, these are all part of a vanguard's job. At first, the role felt unfamiliar, but now that old feeling is coming back and Aang starts enjoying the nostalgia. His squad watches him from outside, and one member says Aang looks like he is taking a relaxing stroll. Another asks if they should really trust this guy. Paris, however, doesn't look too worried. She remembers Aang telling her to trust him. Unlike the other vanguards, Aang clearly doesn't follow the rules exactly, but he promised Pikadia would win, and the confidence in his eyes told her he meant it. His performance during combat training proved he was becoming bolder, and the way he spoke to her without hesitation only made her more interested in him. Meanwhile, the other vanguards continue scouting as demons chase them through the woods. One boy gets terrified after spotting 3 one-fin demons and tries to avoid them. But soon after, he runs into a 2-finned red core demon and then spots a 3-finned demon nearby. Some of the vanguards immediately flee. One of them sees Aang standing still and warns him to run because there are 3-finned demons ahead. Aang notices that the demon is standing exactly along the route he needs to take. Suddenly, roots burst from the ground and attack several vanguards. The audience panics at the demon's appearance, shouting for the warriors to escape. The demon declares that humans have trapped demons here for too long and now they deserve to die. As it attacks Aang, he realizes the demons inside the tournament grounds are far more violent than the ones outside. He dodges quickly while thinking how annoying all these spectators are. He wants to stay low profile, but with everyone watching, that is getting harder by the second. So to avoid standing out for too long, he decides to end this quickly. Aang closes the distance on the 3-fin demon, his eyes locked on its core. The 4-fin demon is still waiting for him, so he has no time to waste on this one. With precise force, he strikes straight at the core. The audience falls silent as they watch him defeat a 3-fin demon by himself. Using a metal element sword, Aang reinforces the blade with metal power, making it sharper and far more destructive. After cutting the demon down, he retrieves the 3-finned agility core and continues searching for the 4-fin demon. He wonders if the terrain layout has changed. The most important spectators would naturally be placed where they can get the best view of the tournament. So the 4-fin demon should be somewhere high, visible, and central. Dylan watches Aang's movements and immediately realizes the kid is searching for the 4-fin demon. Aang stabs his sword into another demon. This is already the 5th one he has defeated. The deeper he goes, the stronger the demons become, which feels strange. He wants to inspect the area, but demons keep chasing him, forcing him to fight non-stop. Now he understands why no one wants the vanguard role. For lower-level warriors, this job is basically a suicide mission. Aang has already defeated 5 two-fin demons for his team, which should have raised their squad's score nicely. He hopes his team won't be too shocked by how much he has improved. He remains convinced the 4-fin demon is on the highest hill, close to where the top spectators are seated. Dylan notices the kid's ambition and wonders whether Aang decided to hunt the 4-fin demon alone, or if his entire squad agreed to this madness. Then the broadcaster announces that Aang is heading toward the 4-fin demon. It seems strange, because no one understands how he knows exactly where it is. One of Aang's squadmates asks if he is planning a route for them to fight the demon. He points out that their squad is not strong enough to take down a 4-finned monster and asks if Paris ordered this. Paris immediately says no. She has no idea what Aang is doing. She only hopes he doesn't cause trouble because their squad cannot beat a 4-finned demon. The broadcaster reports that Aang has found the 4-finned demon and seems to be preparing his next move. Some people assume he is planning to escape, letting his squad attack first so he can return safely. But Aang simply breaks the seal on the gate leading to the 4-finned demon. Everyone is stunned, then he boldly tells the demon to get up and fight. Dylan is losing his mind in fascination. Aang isn't waiting for his squad. He intends to fight the demon alone. This man is trying to win the tournament as a vanguard. The broadcaster shouts in disbelief, highlighting that Aang opened the container himself and is preparing to battle the 4-finned demon solo, something no one has ever done before in tournament history. The crowd erupts, cheering loudly for Picadia. The broadcaster announces that Picadia's vanguard is challenging the 4-finned demon alone. Meanwhile, Aang's squadmates ask Paris if this arrogant guy has completely lost his mind because there is no way he can win. The crowd is going wild, amazed by his insane move. Paris knows that even with Aang's control ability, a 4-finned demon is still a nightmare. Fighting one alone requires everything he has, and she wonders if Aang is truly ready for that kind of battle. The 4-finned demon, a blue-core water element demon, breaks free and sees Aang standing there alone. It attacks immediately with an exploding drill. Aang swings his sword and raises an earth wall, but the drill keeps tearing through. Earth is weak against this level of water power, and for a moment, Aang looks like he is in real danger. The demon mocks him, asking how he dares fight alone and promising to tear him apart. Aang responds by summoning a demon to fight beside him. Then he calmly asks whoever said he was alone. Dylan realizes the demon assisting Aang is one of the 2-finned demons he defeated earlier. As the battle continues, the 4-finned demon senses something strange. It soon understands that Aang is controlling demon cores. Aang feels a little smug because this ability should belong only to demons. No ordinary human should be able to do this. Paris watches him using that special control ability, while the broadcaster is amazed by what everyone is seeing. The 3 demons helping Aang are the same ones he previously defeated. The audience is shocked. Aang orders the controlled demons to charge at the 4-finned demon. The water demon laughs, believing 2-finned demons could never challenge it. It prepares to unleash its extreme water gun. But before the attack can happen, Dylan suddenly jumps in. He strikes the 4-finned demon and slams it into the ground. Aang is surprised that this new hero defeated the demon just by landing on it. Dylan apologizes for barging in, saying he became too curious about Aang's abilities and now wants to fight him instead. Controlling dead demons is something completely new, and Aang looked capable of defeating even the 4-finned demon. So this discount Homelander decides to personally test his strength. The broadcaster announces the challenge, and the audience explodes with excitement at the rare event unfolding before them. A man asks Paris what is happening, and another explains that Dylan, one of the 6 heroes, is personally testing Aang. Paris realizes the situation is completely out of their control now. Internally, Aang wonders if this guy has lost his mind. He can sense Dylan's killing intent. Dylan notes that Aang doesn't look afraid at all, which is unusual for such a young warrior. Aang replies that he has gone through strict training, and because of his unique abilities, his squad captain has always expected a lot from him. That might explain why his strength is above his peers. Then he adds that people consider him a genius. Of course, Aang is just saying whatever sounds believable, assuming Dylan won't bother checking whether any of it is true, but Dylan only finds him more fascinating. He prepares to attack and tells Aang to show his full power. The rocks Dylan sends flying are like bullets, fast and deadly. Aang dodges, knowing that if he hadn't been fully alert, that attack would have hit him clean. Dylan comments on Aang's agility, saying it explains how he dodges so well, and now he expects even more from him. Aang questions Dylan's hostility, wondering why he is being this aggressive. Dylan suddenly moves behind him and explains that part of his hostility comes from disliking Aang's attitude. And his name, he attacks again, but Aang dodges. Dylan keeps circling behind him and notices something else. Aang reeks of a demon. Aang realizes he cannot completely hide the demonic energy inside him, which means avoiding suspicion is no longer possible. Even while using less than half of his true strength, Dylan's pressure is overwhelming enough to remind Aang of the 8-fin demon he once faced. Then Dylan reveals the real reason behind his hostility. He hates Aang's name. By now, Aang can guess where that hatred comes from. It is tied to the old king, the one who sacrificed himself for humanity, the one who lost countless comrades in the process. Dylan lets his anger take over and launches a brutal attack, forcing Aang to draw out his demonic form just to fight back. Their clash erupts into a massive explosion, but the audience remains safe behind the protective barrier. The broadcaster reports in shock that Aang actually managed to land a hit on one of the new heroes, despite the absurd gap in power. Dylan heals himself immediately, but even the broadcaster admits this is surprising. Aang injured him, even if only for a moment. Now determined to end this, Dylan decides to kill him. He points out the strong demonic scent coming from Aang, and his killing intent becomes impossible to ignore. The broadcaster announces that Dylan is about to unleash devastating abilities, including high-speed spinning energy gears capable of tearing through anything in their path. They hope Dylan will hold back a little, while telling the audience to enjoy the performance. As Dylan charges forward with overwhelming force, Aang realizes he can no longer keep hiding his abilities. If he does, this bastard will kill him without hesitation. Right now, Aang is weaker than he should be, so if he wants to survive, he has no choice but to reveal his full strength. But just as the two are about to collide, a protective barrier appears and stops Dylan's attack. Dylan recognizes the barrier immediately and knows exactly who is behind it. He asks why she is interfering. Lena replies that even if Dylan hates this boy, she feels the opposite because she likes him. She appears fully equipped for battle, sharp and ready from head to toe. Aang notices her and wonders if she used her green core to restore herself to her prime condition. Dylan questions her, reminding her that she is not allowed to wear battle gear and asking if she plans to defy the king's orders. Lena calmly corrects him. She is forbidden from participating in demon-killing activities, but no one ever said she couldn't wear battle gear, and she asks if he seriously expected her to walk around unarmed. Aang can tell she is still the same as before, sharp, bold, and impossible to push around. In his past life, he was always the one standing in front of her during battle, but now she is standing in front of him. The broadcaster announces Lena's arrival, calling it a shocking and unexpected turn of events. Dylan acknowledges her reputation as a great warrior, but warns that he will not go easy on her, and she should choose her words carefully. Lena criticizes him for causing such a public scene on an important day. Then she introduces Aang as the son of her friend, saying Dylan has tested the boy enough already. Dylan laughs, calling them both detestable, then activates his ability, Serpent Decree. A dense wave of energy spreads outward, nearly impossible to dodge. Dylan sends it straight at Lena, but Aang steps in with his sword and blocks the first wave. The broadcaster warns that the follow-up attacks are relentless, and Aang will not be able to block all of them alone. Lena tells him to fall back and let her shield protect them, but Aang refuses. He takes the hits head-on, stopping Lena from being harmed. He knows her temper too well. If this keeps escalating, someone could die. The broadcaster grows even more excited, calling this clash between heroes a spectacle rarer than seeing a 7-fin demon. Dylan gets more serious and launches his demon-piercing full Gatling attack, proving he is no longer treating this like a joke. Before the fight between the two heroes turns into a disaster, Aang changes the whole flow by grabbing everyone's attention. He suddenly thanks Dylan, saying he has learned many valuable battle techniques from him. He claims Dylan's guidance is priceless, and he feels unworthy of such generosity. From the sidelines, Paris wonders what the hell this kid is trying to do. Aang keeps pushing the act, asking Dylan if he is satisfied with his performance. The broadcaster notes Aang's respectful attitude, while some spectators wonder if this means the fight is over. Others can only imagine the destruction that would happen if all 6 heroes ever fought each other seriously. For now, they are thrilled just to witness Dylan in action, and they cheer loudly for him. Dylan decides there is no point in continuing. Aang continues thanking him for his guidance and promises not to disappoint him in the future. He says he will keep improving. Dylan acknowledges Aang's performance, calling him full of surprises and praising him as an impressive young warrior. He tells Aang to keep striving forward. The broadcaster congratulates Aang for earning recognition from one of the new heroes, describing it as an extraordinary achievement. Then they announce that Aang's team has won the Grand Demon Hunt tournament, making this year's tournament the fastest and most unexpected in history. Paris and Aang's teammates are stunned by how easily everything ended. The broadcaster explains that Aang's role as vanguard, along with his unexpected strength, secured their victory. The team celebrates as they receive the tournament trophy. Paris congratulates Aang properly, saying he won the tournament for them, and she is willing to grant him any reward he wants. Overwhelmed with joy, she hugs him tightly and tells him he can ask anything of her. The others quickly tell her to let go before Aang stops breathing. Afterward, Aang reminds her of their earlier agreement. Paris agrees, promising to vouch for him so he can enter the city properly and meet the people responsible for energy crystal distribution. Aang thanks her, then mentions that his cape is dirty and asks if she can prepare some clothes for him. He says he will not join the celebration because he has a prior engagement. A girl teases him, asking if he has a date and whether it is with a man or a woman. Aang simply says he is going to visit an old friend. Later, Aang meets Lena. She is surprised he actually came and asks how he knew this was the secret base where they were supposed to meet. Her eyes fill with warm tears, and deep down, she desperately wants him to confirm what her heart already suspects, that he is the Aang she once knew. Her memories drift back to the past, to the secret base she and Aang used to visit together. She always loved this quiet place with its beautiful view over the city. Aang used to tease her for acting like a child, but this was where they came to fool around, laugh, and escape the weight of war. That is why she called it their secret base, a place only the two of them knew. Back in the present, Lena grows emotional and asks if he is really the person who remembers this place. Before he can answer, she turns away, wiping her eyes and apologizing for losing control. She says he reminds her of someone very important. She admits she was worried about him during the tournament. He was reckless, and if she had not arrived in time, things could have ended badly. Lena tells him to consider this her way of thanking him for helping her near the statue of the mightiest warrior. Aang softly calls her name. Lena asks what he just said. Then he lightly taps her forehead just like he used to, teasing her for still worrying about their secret base after all these years. That is when Lena breaks. Tears begin falling as she finally understands. Aang smiles and tells her it is wonderful to see her alive and well. Then he confirms it. He is the same Aang, and he has returned to their secret base. Lena hugs him tightly, overwhelmed with relief, asking why it took him so long to come back. Aang tells her everything: his time travel, the ancient king monument, the existence of an 8-fin demon, the sinister power now living inside him. Lena is stunned. She thought 7-fin demons were the highest level, and now she can barely process what he is saying. Aang admits he does not fully understand it himself. He should have died 50 years ago, but somehow he arrived in the present, carrying something dangerous within him. Lena is simply overjoyed that he is alive, and she welcomes him back warmly. Then Aang asks the question that has been haunting him. Why does everyone in this era hate him and the old 6 heroes so much? Lena explains that the resentment began with his actions during the Battle of Dawn. Aang had led a group of warriors to the ancient king monument despite heavy opposition. Many warned him not to go, fearing what might happen. But Aang ignored their warnings, told everyone to wait for his return, and entered the monument with his team. When news spread that Aang had died inside the monument, the morale of the warriors collapsed. Their king was gone. The mightiest warrior was gone. Humanity fell into despair. The demons launched a massive counterattack and reclaimed nearly all the territory humans had fought so hard to win. Casualties exploded, and 9 out of 10 warriors died in the battles that followed. To many people, all of it could have been avoided if Aang had listened. Over time, new heroes and a new king rose to power, many of them people who had opposed Aang's decision from the start. That resentment spread toward him, his supporters, and the surviving old 6 heroes. Their status as warriors was stripped away by the new king, leaving them powerless and despised. Aang is shaken to learn that his choices led to so much devastation. Lena says it has been a long time, and she has grown used to the hatred. To her, the past no longer matters the same way. It is not simply about who was right or wrong. She often visits Aang's statue and thinks about what was lost, but now that he is alive, it feels like a miracle. Aang explains that his goal had been to eliminate the demons completely and create a future where humanity no longer had to live in fear. Lena understands his pain, but reminds him that the consequences of his actions were too heavy for many people to accept. As their king, he naturally became the one to carry the blame. Aang then asks about the surviving heroes. Lena reveals that 3 of the 6 died in the battles after his death. One Yellow Corps hero suffered severe injuries, voluntarily gave up his status, and disappeared into hiding. And the Blue Corps Phantom opposed the new king, which led to his brutal punishment. His hands and feet were shattered, then he was thrown into a dungeon and left there to die. Lena admits she has also been thinking about leaving Dawn City because the memories here have become too painful to carry. Aang is furious after hearing how the old heroes were treated, and he asks why she never gathered people to oppose the new king. Lena explains that the new king is not someone they can simply fight. He is terrifyingly powerful, the only known 3-core 7-finned warrior. She doubts even Aang at his peak could defeat him now. The new 6 heroes are also monsters in their own right, each possessing dual-core 7-finned abilities, meaning they have surpassed the warriors from Aang's generation. But Aang still refuses to let Dessa rot in a dungeon. No matter how dangerous it is, they have to find a way to save him. At the same time, Aang wonders how a 3-core warrior is even possible. Lena says there may be an explanation, then asks if he knows demons can control elemental powers. Aang thinks of the abilities he has already absorbed, while Lena explains that demons are no longer classified only by their 6 core colors. Over time, they also evolved into 5 elemental types: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. That evolution has made demons far harder to kill. Aang realizes earth is the only element he still lacks. Lena continues, explaining that elemental powers can also fuse with warriors, granting them overwhelming strength. Aang compares this with his own elemental control, but since he still doesn't fully understand what he has become, he asks her to explain further. Lena says the gap between 4-finned and 5-finned warriors is enormous. Among the strongest 5-finned warriors, many search for fusion cores. One of the places where warriors hunt for these fusion cores is Dracula's Boneyard Castle. The name immediately brings back memories for Aang. He remembers leading a brutal battle there with more than 1 million warriors. The battlefield left behind so many corpses that the place eventually earned its name. Lena says that beneath Boneyard Castle lie the remains and cores of countless warriors and demons. Later, a new breed of demon was discovered there. Even the weakest among them are 5-finned, and inside their chests are fusion cores, crystals that allow warriors to merge with elemental power. But not everyone can use them. Only 5-finned warriors with strong physical resistance can survive the fusion process. Aang asks if one fusion core can grant control over all 5 elements. Lena says no. A fusion core only allows control over one element because the 5 elements are too different to merge together. No one, not even the new king or the 6 heroes, has ever combined more than one element. Aang is amazed by how strong modern warriors have become with elemental cores. Back when he fought Dylan, that man probably wasn't even using his full strength. He had to maintain his image and avoid destroying the barrier. If Dylan had gone all out, Aang knows he wouldn't have survived. Lena adds that the new king and the 6 heroes are far stronger than the warriors from Aang's era. With dual cores and complete elemental representation, rescuing Dessa from the dungeon is practically impossible. Aang thinks about the 4 elements he already gained from the 8-finned demon, but he understands he is still far weaker than the current heroes. He decides he cannot rely only on demonic power. He has to become stronger himself, and for that, he needs to visit Dracula's Boneyard Castle. Lena reminds him that he is not a 5-finned warrior yet. Aang says he knows the gap between 4 fins and 5 fins is massive, but if there is a wall in front of him, then he will overcome it in this lifetime. Later, Aang meets Paris at the market and tells her about his new plan. He says he will leave only after securing the energy crystal. Seeing his determination, Paris agrees to help him and go with him, hoping this will finally solve Helios Town's energy crystal crisis. As they walk, Aang suddenly sees Giat and the others right in front of him. The captain is busy explaining their plan to visit the warrior war department for help. Paris notices Aang stopping and asks what is wrong. The moment Aang greets his companions, they rush toward him and hug him, overwhelmed to see him alive and clearly stronger than before. Giat senses immediately that Aang has grown a lot. Lan even points out that he seems taller now. Hearing that, Aang realizes the change may be because of the demon cores inside him. Lan explains that they followed the commander from Bryan City just to watch the tournament. Thankfully, Leyu managed to get information about Aang's whereabouts, but the information turned out to be wrong. So they returned to Dawn City, where Giat managed to strike a deal and obtain some energy crystals. After that, their next goal was to find Aang. They never expected him to already be in Dawn City. Aang is relieved that the energy crystal problem has been solved and offers to represent them from now on. Paris watches their reunion for a moment, then decides to leave them alone. Before she goes, Giat thanks her for looking after Aang. Paris replies that Aang is the one who helped Pakadia City. Moving on, Lan suggests Aang should talk to Leyu because she hasn't been eating properly since they got separated. Suju also shows him photos of Leyu looking sad and distant because of course she photographed the depression arc too. Eventually, Aang goes to Leyu and apologizes for making her worry. He promises he will not run off alone again. Leyu becomes emotional but accepts his words. For a while, all the friends simply spend time together, talking and laughing like they finally got a small piece of peace back. Meanwhile, Lena watches from hiding, remembering everything she once shared with Aang and the old heroes. Seeing him surrounded by friends reminds her of the bonds they used to have. That night, Leyu dreams of a devastated battlefield. In the dream, she is helping Aang, begging him to stay awake and hold on. She keeps pleading with him not to lose consciousness. Then they finally see an elemental crystal, the same type of crystal that allows warriors to wield demon elemental powers. But a demon suddenly appears and mocks them, calling them low-level warriors. It says that even with the crystal, they are only delaying the inevitable. The demon charges at Leyu and knocks her hard onto the ground. Even after being attacked, the only thing she struggles for is to help Aang. Then the nightmare ends. Leyu wakes up in bed, shaken and sweating. She realizes it was only a dream, but it felt painfully real, even the sensation of being stabbed. Trying to calm herself, she decides to take a shower. Just then, Aang opens her door, saying he heard her shouting. Seeing her in her nightdress, Lei instantly throws a pillow at him and yells at him for entering without knocking. Aang explains that he came because he was worried, but she only shouts at him to get out. Later, Aang waits outside the hotel for Lei. When she joins him, she says it is time to go. Aang asks if she cleaned up and she tells him to call her squad leader. He agrees, then asks if she rested well, reminding her that they have a long journey ahead. Lei says she is fine, though she admits the nightmare scared her. She wonders how Aang can stay so calm when the place they are heading to is so terrifying. They are traveling through a sea-level area on the way to Dracula's boneyard castle. If they hurry, they should arrive by evening. Aang adds that they will need to pass a strength test to enter the castle. Otherwise, they will be treated as trespassers. Lei remembers Giat mentioning the castle before. It is an important site where promising five-finned warriors go to obtain elemental crystals. A city has grown around the castle, with military grounds and high-level warriors stationed there. The area is heavily guarded, not only to stop unauthorized entry, but also to keep whatever lives inside the castle from escaping. Aang asks if she is afraid to come with him, especially since only five-finned warriors usually dare to enter. Lei says it is not just her who is worried. Giat is also concerned that Aang might act recklessly again, which is why he assigned her, a green core recovery type, to watch his safety. But this is not only about protecting Aang. Giat also wants Lei to grow stronger beside him and return as a two-finned warrior. She then complains about how quickly Aang has leveled up, reaching 4 fins in such a short time. Aang remembers that their other 2 teammates are also receiving special training from the captain, and they were excited about it. Lei, acting fully like the squad leader, says she has to keep an eye on Aang, especially after he once left the squad without warning. Aang gives her a mischievous smile, which immediately irritates her. She accuses him of thinking about what happened that morning, but Aang denies it. At Dracula's boneyard castle, warriors are recruiting others into their teams. Some squads are looking for agility types, others want green core warriors, but the requirement is always the same. They must be five-finned warriors. When Aang and Lei arrive at the castle, the warriors at the entrance notice them immediately. They identify Aang as a 4-finned warrior and Lei as a 1-finned warrior, then question where they came from. Some assume they must be desperate. One jokes that the young couple must be lost, while another says they will never be allowed inside because there is no way they can pass the test. Clearly, these people have no idea who they are underestimating. Then another group of warriors arrives, and one of them mocks Aang for bringing his girlfriend along. Aang and Lei ignore them, focused only on entering Dracula's boneyard castle. Lei grows mildly annoyed by the constant insults, but Aang tells her not to waste energy on stupid words from stupid people. The one mocking them is Other, the young master of the Mir family from Ula City. The warriors nearby are surprised Other came to the castle to search for an elemental crystal with a 6-finned warrior beside him. That 6-finned warrior is said to be one of the top fighters hired by the Mir family. Someone mentions seeing his information on the hiring board, noting both his impressive strength and his connection to the Mirs. They also say this warrior already possesses an elemental crystal and has gained significant elemental power. Because of that, everyone believes Other will succeed this time. Other steps forward and introduces himself as the young master of the Mir family from Ula, and a level city. Other boasts that everyone knows the Mir family, the largest warrior guild in Ula City. Then he turns his attention to Lei, saying a green core warrior like her doesn't belong in a place like this. He offers her a position as his personal healer and promises she will be rewarded generously. Aang and Lei ignore him completely. That only annoys Other more. He can't believe they aren't instantly worshipping him just because he comes from a powerful family. In his mind, they must not understand how important the Mirs are. This guy is painfully full of himself, and Lei finally snaps. She demands to know who gave him permission to speak to her like that. Other keeps bragging and insulting her, making her anger rise even further. Then he shoves his companion aside, ready to personally put Lei in her place. Lei knows she isn't strong enough to defeat him head-on, but she refuses to back down. Furious at his arrogance, she prepares to fight. Other charges, saying he will teach her a lesson. But before he can touch her, Aang steps in and stops him. Other tells Aang to move aside, threatening to deal with him too if he gets in the way. Aang reminds him who started this mess and warns that causing trouble here could damage his family's reputation. If the guards decide he is making a scene, they might refuse him entry. But of course, Other is too arrogant to back down. That is when the 6-finned warrior beside him steps forward and agrees with Aang. He says the warriors gathered here are all capable fighters, and making a scene would only embarrass the Mir family. He advises Other not to rush. Once they enter the castle, anything can happen. And yeah, we can already tell what these bastards are planning. Other reluctantly backs off, saying he won't waste time on weaklings, then moves ahead. The 6-finned warrior follows, secretly using his earth elemental power to shoot small stones toward Aang. Aang catches them easily in midair. Lei senses something off and asks if something is wrong. Aang casually replies that it was nothing, just a tiny annoyance like swatting mosquitoes. Then he suggests they continue with the test. The six-finned warrior is surprised. His hidden attack was fast, and even if Aang blocked it, it should have hurt his hand. He tells other they need to reconsider who their real competitors are for the elemental crystal. Aang is clearly stronger than an ordinary four-finned warrior, and even he cannot fully measure the kid's strength. So instead of testing him directly, they should find a way to eliminate both Aang and Lei first. During the synchronization test, Aang scores 54% while Lei scores 42%. Lei asks if they passed since there doesn't seem to be a minimum requirement. Aang remembers that Lei's rate used to be 39%. Now that she has become a one-finned warrior, her rate has also climbed to 42%, a solid improvement. The woman conducting the test notes that one of them is a four-finned warrior and the other is only one-finned. Then she asks why they want to enter Boneyard Castle for an elemental crystal when the demons inside are at least three-finned in strength. Aang confirms their decision, explaining that Lei is their squad's medic, while he is a highly agile warrior, so they can defend themselves. Lei immediately frowns at being reduced to just the medic. The woman explains that no warrior below 5 fins has ever dared enter the castle before. If they go in, they will become the lowest-level entrants in recorded history. She reminds them that elemental crystals can only be found inside a special demon, and usually only one appears at a time. Once that demon is hunted, another takes a while to emerge. She also warns them that demons won't be their only threat. Stronger warriors will be inside too, and their lives will be at risk. Then she asks if they still want to proceed. Aang agrees, saying their goal is more than simple survival and thanks her for the warning, so she allows them to enter. Lei remembers the rumors that 9 out of 10 people who enter the castle never return. She admits she is scared, but with Aang beside her, she also feels strangely calm and confident. And with that, they step into Dracula's Boneyard Castle. Inside, they quickly hide from the demons. Lei sees the place swarming with monsters, and Aang explains that this used to be a massive city just like Dawn City, but after the demon invasion, it was abandoned and turned into a battlefield. Now the main castle and surrounding region belong to demons. No one lives here anymore. People simply call it the castle, maybe because remembering what it used to be is too painful. Lei is fascinated by how much Aang knows, but Aang downplays it, saying he only heard stories as a child. Then he stands and decides they should start searching for the special demon and its elemental crystal. While doing that, they need to avoid unnecessary battles at all cost. Suddenly, Lei sees an explosion in the distance and thinks some warriors are fighting hard. She asks if they should help. Aang says no. Inside the castle, it is better to stay out of other people's fights. Since Lei grew up in Helios, she probably doesn't know how dangerous outsiders can be. He warns her that the warriors they saw at the entrance are greedy and cunning, so she should not throw her kindness around carelessly. Suddenly, Aang spots a demon rushing toward Lei and pulls her to safety instantly. The demon is surprised Aang reacted in time. Its water attacks are silent and odorless, so detecting them should have been nearly impossible. Aang realizes this is a 5-finned demon using silent water and agility to sneak up on them. Lei understands that if Aang hadn't reacted so fast, she would have been badly hurt. Aang decides they need to deal with this monster quickly. They cannot afford to attract more demons or warriors. Lei agrees. She doesn't want to make another mistake or become a burden. The demon asks if they seriously think they can defeat him, pointing out that they are only a 4-finned and a 1-finned warrior. To him, their confidence is ridiculous. Then he disappears, drops from above, and unleashes a rain of spikes. Aang identifies it as an area attack and tells Lei to move closer. He creates a protective barrier that blocks the spikes. The demon starts acting cocky again, but then notices wood and metal surrounding them. He wonders if this is elemental power. He is confused. How can this kid control more than 2 elements? Human warriors should only gain elemental power once they are 5-finned or higher. Aang attacks, and the demon warns that he will pierce him through. Spikes burst from the ground, but Aang uses water to close the distance and asks if the demon is surprised. The demon smirks, saying it was only a joke. Even if Aang can use water, he still cannot match the demon's agility and water combination. But Aang doesn't agree. He gives Lei a quick signal. She appears behind the demon and lands a kick, while Aang drives his sword straight into its body. Together, they defeat it. Aang feels proud of their teamwork, and the fight earns them a water core. Lei takes the core, claiming the 4-finned blue core as a 1-finned warrior. Aang pulls his sword from the demon's chest and